Yes, it's time for Chaos Head. We're getting our first ending in the game, which is very exciting. And after we get this ending, we could get all the other endings except for the last ending, because we have to get every other ending first before that one. Yay! Before that, though, I'm gonna take a little break so I can just stand up for a little while, and then we'll get right into it. Yeah. Um, this scream. Enjoy. I'll be right back. And we are back from our little break. Hello. I hope you guys didn't miss me too much. I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned. I have no clue what's gonna happen in the game. Thank you for welcoming me back. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm recording, right? Yeah, okay, cool. I just needed to make sure. Okay, cool. This is gonna be a time TM, I just know it. I was standing on the water. The water was so clear. It was almost transparent. It was shallow, and light came up to my ankles. I didn't feel cold. I could hear the intermittent sound of the waves. I was holding the handles of a wheelchair. Shogun. No. The real Takumi Nishijo was right in front of me, wearing his knitted cap. He was sitting in his wheelchair, back slightly bent forward. There was nothing at all around us. You might expect to see a shell buried in the sand, or seagulls soaring through the sky, but there's nothing like that at all. There were no signs of life, only the blue sea and clear sky. The world was flat and level, as far as I could see, extending all the way to the horizon. This wasn't the real world. I'm going to die soon, you see? I could hear Shogun's voice mixed in with the breaking waves. I couldn't see the look on his face from where I was standing. There was no real sorrow in his voice. There was no real emotion at all. I think you can tell just by looking at my body. It was reed thin, small, covered in wrinkles. All his hair had fallen out. It's a congenital disease. My body stopped growing at the age of 10 when it manifested. And now, I'm growing old. Early aging. It was a rare disease that affected 1 in around 8 million people. I remembered hearing about it. The age of 10. I remember the terrible event I experienced around that age. 3 months before the bus accident. That's when it appeared. Did you cause the blacks? Blah 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 blah. Did you cause the bus accident? Maybe. At the time, I barely knew anything about my own power. Far before the illness appeared, when I was very, very young, I'd been able to use my Gigglomaniac power. I thought that was normal. I've used it many times, consciously and subconsciously. And so, my body started to contradict itself. Sena Aoi told you about this, right? The antiparticles which are produced alongside the particles built up within the D-sword. Mathematically, antiparticles are things that go into the past. The more they build up, the more the Gigglomaniac finds themselves becoming disconnected from their present state. Eventually, this disconnect causes their very being to collapse. Shogun was unmoving in his wheelchair. What was he looking at? What could he see? The more I use my power, the more the disease progresses. Can't you use your Gigglomaniac power to fix it? Using my power advances the disease, essentially. If I try, the two cancel each other out. Nothing changes. Maths, I guess. Why? Why did you make a loser, a creepy otaku like me? Couldn't you have made somebody stronger, more handsome, more aggressive? Creating a person, especially one who could use a Gigglomaniac's power, is no easy task. I had to go into a coma for almost a year to create you. So I was incomplete. And that's what makes you so very human. You don't need to try to make me feel better. I mean it. I sighed. I really did hate this guy. Yumi always told me not to use my power. She got very angry. She wants to save you, right? But I couldn't give her what she wanted. The danger we face now is because of my IR2. IR2. The strange scribbling on the back of the essay. IR2 caught the eye of a certain scientist, and eventually, Nozomi Technologies began researching it. The result of that research was Project NoAH. Essentially, a way to artificially mimic a Gigalomaniac's powers. I was only able to realize its existence after meeting Rimi. She was being horribly tortured as part of the project. Code samples are needed to make the NoAH systems more efficient. These are unique brainwave patterns emitted when Gigalomaniacs use their powers. The president of Nozomi, a man named Norose, was horribly torturing Rimi to get the samples. Powerful negative emotions are what caused the Gigalomaniac to awaken and attain their D-sword, you see? Once again, I remembered what Senna said. Escalated biorhythms cause an overproduction of dopamine in the neurons of the mesolimbic system. That's when the D-sword appears. That can happen during dangerous situations, or when you're feeling excitement, sadness, hatred, or laughter. It depends on the person. The greater the amount of dopamine, the easier it becomes to observe the D-sword. And that's why you came after me? Yeah. To awaken your power. I'm sorry. It wasn't just me and Rimi. Other people have been physically and psychologically tortured as part of Project NoAH as well, to awaken them as Gigalomaniacs. Yeah, say, Senna too. Close the P. Even Nanami. We'd all been made to suffer. NoAH 2 was created from IR2. I had to stop it myself. No, thank you for your contribution to the challenge. I actually have no clue how that's at. Let me see. 43% raised. You guys are doing pretty decently. I might have to extend the goal again. We'll see, though. Still have 22 days, right? Yeah. We'll see. But with my body like this, I can barely even move. Become Sea Bunny? Bet. I will become the Sea Bunny. I don't have head pat set up on it. I will throw that information out there. I need to do that. Hehehe. Little. I get to be squishy 2 days in a row. Let's go. Yeah. Let me move it a little more in the corner. Little, yes. Yeah, this is good. Let's go. Okay. But with my body like this, I can barely even move. And Nozomi started to come after me, too. They wanted my code sample. The fact that I was staying at AH Tokyo General Hospital made matters even worse, and the secret connections to the Nozomi group. So, I had to hide. That means Yurami, the girl in the hospital room nobody could find. Now, the only one who could get to me was Rimi. I stopped being able to even move, and then you made me. Shogun nodded slightly. Rimi kept begging me to erase you. She said that keeping you alive was wearing away my life. But I don't have much time left. Even if I don't use my power, it won't make much of a difference. His voice was so very calm. Maybe it was the calm of someone who had given a death sentence years ago. And I knew that. If you awakened and learned to use your power, I wouldn't last. Because you and I are one mind? And that's right. But promise me one thing. No more delusions. Okay? Your delusions are very strong. And the more delusions you create, the more it consumes the life of your real self. If I cut my promise to Rimi, I wouldn't be able to go save her. Even if I tried, I'd be helpless to do anything. How much more time do you think you have? Today. Or tomorrow, I think. Is that soon? I was stunned. It was far less than I expected. Is it because I woke up? You don't need to worry about it. Your awakening is what I was wanted to happen. Your awakening is what I wanted to happen. What happens to me if you die? You share the same mind as me, but you're also a real human being, created via real booting. Maybe you weren't born in the same way other people were, but you're still human. If I disappear, will you survive? No. I think at most, my lifespan would go from a few days to a few weeks. But don't even think about making such a stupid decision. I want you to destroy NoAH too. And I want you to use as much of your power as it takes to do it. Yeah, I know. You're not enough of a softie to hold back for your sake. Shogun laughed. His shoulders shook, just a little. I didn't mean to make him laugh, so it made me mad. I'm glad you woke up. It may be selfish of me, but I'm gonna let you handle the rest. Suddenly, the feeling of the handles of the wheelchair disappeared from my hand. His wheelchair had moved away from me and was gliding across the water. The wheels were slicing through the surface, creating little waves. I had no intention of following him. I just watched him go. My job is finished. That's really selfish. You're just gonna make me do all the work? I'm a little tired. Let me sleep. He turned his wheelchair back around to face me. Like always, I couldn't read his expression, but there was tension in his voice. And there's no time. Hurry. NoAH has brought NoAH 2 online at full power. And the only way to stop it now is to destroy NoAH 2 directly. I'm counting on you. And then he disappeared, like he'd vanished in a fog. The colors of the mental world began to slowly fade. You don't have the right to ask for anything. I'm just doing what I chose to do. The sound of the waves got further and further away. I took a good long look at the endless blue sky to burn it into my memory, like Rimi had once done. And then I softly closed my eyes. The serious-sounding voice of a newscaster was coming from the radio. Current confirmed fatalities stand at 233, but this number is expected to reach over 30,000. The meteorological agency announced that the earthquake had an intensity of 7 and a magnitude of 7.8, rivaling the Great Kanto earthquake. Some buildings in Shibuya have collapsed, and large sinkholes have appeared. The Shibuya section of the highway system has been shut down due to road cave-ins. All railway lines in this area, including the Yamanote line, are not operating at this time. And there was a crackle of static before the voice on the radio vanished entirely. No good. It's not picking anything up again. Momose picked up the old portable radio, shook it, and then smacked it a few times before letting out a big sigh. This old thing's a heap of junk. She allowed her a forced smile and looked to the side. Next to her were a tired-looking Yase Kishimoto and Yua Kusunoki. Both Ayase and Yua's clothes were covered in dirt, and it was obvious how difficult it must have been for them to get this far. But the weapons in their hands, the D-swords, didn't have a speck of dust on them. Their cold light was as bright as ever. After the earthquake, Yua and Ayase had walked from Yogi to Shibuya, then headed to Frigia's office to meet with Momose. The three of them had waited at a spot near the office. His building had tilted badly during the earthquake, and now seemed in danger of falling over, hoping that Bond would show up. But even by the time morning came, there was no sign of him. Momose had suggested leaving Shibuya, but Ayase had rejected the idea. Gladiel has awakened. We need to find the rest of the Black Knights. Then, she tried to drag Yua out into the rubble of central Shibuya. Lacking any better options, Momose and Yua had come with her. It was 7 in the morning. The sun hadn't even been up for an hour yet. There was no sign whatsoever of crisp morning air. Nightfall had to hit in the full extent of yesterday's disaster, but now the dawn's light was beginning to expose it, and they were in the middle of it. Shibuya was a scene from a nightmare. Huge cracks had appeared in the roads, and the asphalt had bulged up from beneath the ground. Several buildings had fallen over, burying the streets around them in rubble. Most of the glass had shattered, and the huge billboards on the roofs had fallen off the sides. There were dead bodies lying everywhere, exposed to the elements. At first, Momose would feel terrible every time she saw one, and gave a silent prayer for them in her heart. But there were so many that she soon had to force herself not to think about them. If she did, it would break her. Once in a while, she passed by someone else. They were all expressionless, and seemed to be slowly wandering the city with no destination in mind. Several men were working together to save some of the people trapped by the rubble, but without any heavy equipment, it was a hopeless cause. We mostly turned to look at the thing in Yua's hands. A D-sword. Ayase had explained what it was to her. A sword which could create things from nothing, as if by magic. What Bond had said was true. Yua seemed surprised and confused that she herself had one of the swords. So, Kishimoto. Ayase was walking ahead of her, and didn't even turn around when Mose spoke. There was a tense nervousness on her face. So, there are 7 people with these D-swords, including you? That's right. Do you know where they are? I don't. Then, I can feel it. The will. We're going to the... We're going the right way. Ayase was no help. Momose sighed and repeated the same thing she'd been saying all morning. It's dangerous to be wandering around out here. We should get somewhere safe. No. There's no time. You don't think the other, Black Knights, was it? You don't think they're at the evacuation shelters? She's right, Kishimoto. I think we should get to a shelter, too. Perhaps Yua was more persuasive than Momo had been, because Ayase suddenly stopped. Her eyes narrowed. She was staring down the street on Dogenza Hill, which was now completely impassable to cars. There. Huh? What's there? None of you. Ayase was staring at a girl who was coming from the direction of the station. She was wearing a Suime uniform, but her clothes were more of a mess than Yua's or Ayase's. She was holding a huge, cross-shaped sword up to her chest with just her left hand. Her steps were unsteady, as if she might fall over at any moment. Oh no! Momose ran toward the girl, Nanami Nishijo, her plump body shaking with each step. That was unnecessary. She was concerned about the D-sword in Nanami's hands, but for now, she was more concerned about helping her. She grabbed her tiny body and helped her stay upright. Are you okay? You did a great job getting this far. We'll make sure you get to a hospital, so just hang in there. Nanami just looked at her with vacant eyes. Cool. Huh? What did you say? Where's my bangle? Yua and Ayase ran up to her as well, just a moment after Momose. This girl. This is Nishijo's little sister. I see. And she's Takumi's younger sister. That explains why she has what it takes to be a Black Knight. Both of you, help me with her. We have to get her to a hospital. It hurts. Nanami moaned in pain. My right hand. Right hand? Momose took a quick glance down at her hand, only to gasp in shock. Oh no. This is... Huh? Yua and Ayase couldn't understand why Momose was so shocked. Nanami's hand was wrapped in a bloody bandage, but it didn't look that badly injured. Oh, interesting. But to Momose's eyes, her arm ended in a bloody stump at the wrist. It had been sewn up, but the wound had opened. Ayase tried to grab hold of Nanami's right hand at the fingers, a blank expression on her face. But the hand passed through empty air. Her fingers were like a hologram, visible but without substance. Blood dripped from the red bandage and fell onto Ayase's hand. The delusion? Mimi saved me. Mimi? You mean Mimi Sakihata? You know her? Yes. She's a friend of Nishijo's. Yua had thought that Takumi was the new gem killer, and had spent a lot of time investigating him and his surroundings. And of course, that included the people he spent the most time with, like Nanami Nishijo and Mimi Sakihata. Miyase's expression darkened just slightly when she heard Mimi's name. Mimi Sakihata is one of the 7 Black Knights. Huh? Is that right? Miyase remembered what had happened at the hospital yesterday. She remembered the sadness in Mimi's voice. Kishimoto. Leave Taku alone. I don't want him to wake up. Don't you know who you are? What your role is as a Black Knight? I'll handle this myself, somehow. Yeah, I understand why she got slapped. It makes sense now. Your feelings are a beautiful thing, but that's not what the Great Will desires. I don't want it either. I don't want you to have to bear all of the burdens yourself. And that's not the time to be talking about Black Knights or whatever. We have to get her to a hospital right away. The bleeding's bad. Mimose put her handkerchief up against Nanami's wounds. She has a terrible fever, and she's deathly pale. We need to hurry. Brother. I want to see my brother. A single tear dripped from her empty eyes. And just after that, it happened without warning. Thank you for your contribution as well, Spooky. And the street they were standing on collapsed. The ground fell out from underneath them, and they began to fall. It was like they were falling into the darkness of an endless abyss. Mimose screamed in a voice that sounded much too afraid and immature for someone her age. I looked up and saw a thick layer of clouds. At some point, the night had ended. But there was no sign of a blue sky. The sky was depressing, dull, dark, and gray. In the distance, I could hear the ear-splitting sound of ambulance and fire engine sirens. I could see helicopters circling in the sky above. There were so many, like flies. My head ached. It was like there was a road construction crew working overtime inside my school. The pain was even worse than it had been during the last earthquake. I tried to remember what had happened just before my memories went blank. The white sky. What Shogun had called the third melt. I sat up, trying to ignore the pain from my headache, and was shocked by what I saw. The city I knew was gone. It was like one of those post-apocalypse movies that had been popular a decade ago. Shibuya had been destroyed. The traffic signals, the roadside trees, even some of the buildings had fallen over. The famous televisions above Scramble Crossing were cracked and silent. The roofs above the entrance to the subways had collapsed, burying them. The bridges where the Yamanote line ran had collapsed, leaving the severed rails jutting out into space. There were people lying everywhere. Blood and scraps of flesh clung to the rubble. People who weren't moving. People moaning in pain. People screaming, "Help me." People covered in dust and dirt, crawling on the ground, deathly pale. People crying as they held an unmoving body in their hands. The smell of blood. The stench of something burning. And the smell of dust in the air. I could see pillars of smoke rising in the distance. So, this was the power of NoAH 2. I felt a wave of terror wash over me. It was a weapon of mass destruction. I finally understood why Shogun was so desperate to stop it. Wait, where was Shogun? I came back to my senses and looked around. I could see a badly bent wheelchair right next to me. His tiny body was lying next to it. I ran over to him and held him in my arms. Hey, wake up! I yelled at him, but there was no answer. We couldn't hear the voice of his mind either. Was he dead? I put my ear to his mouth. His breathing was faint. But he was breathing. He was just passed out. I tried giving him a light slap on the cheek, but he didn't wake up. Where is NoAH 2? Unless I knew that, I couldn't even go save Rimi and Nanami. I should have asked Shogun to tell me earlier. I took my phone out from my pocket, but the battery was dead. Nothing I did could make it turn on. It was useless now. Was there anybody besides Shogun who would know? Think. There was no time to waste. The Naruto guy might decide to kill Rimi at any minute. Who else was out there who knew about NoAH 2? And who could help me? You're all special. But the most special of you all was the boy who created, whose eyes were those. Ise. Hatano. Sena's father, one of the original members of Project NoAH's research team. Now he was missing. I never met him. No, I might have just missed him a few times. According to Kozupi, he was wandering around Shibuya, just as a homeless person. I'll have to find him. I picked up Shogun's body and carried him on my back as I started to walk through the rubble. He was shockingly light. I had no idea where Hatano could be. I just have to look for him. Shockingly, light or not though, Shogun's body still weighed around 20 kilograms. I didn't have the strength to carry him around Shibuya, not with the rubble and destroyed roads. I'd never done any real exercise in my life, after all. All I ever did was sit in front of the PC. I thought about taking Shogun to a hospital, but with the way things were in Shibuya now, I couldn't call an ambulance. I ran out of strength halfway up one of the less steep hills in Dugenzaka. I was out of breath and my body was pouring with sweat. I wiped the sweat from my brow and stopped to catch my breath. An altar of adoration, piercing the sky. No blasphemy unto the Lord, a torture must deserved. Follow, keep walking, as your eyes will lead me. One and then another, clasping hands in the darkness. And then, I could hear a faint voice. The voice was singing. It was sad, but not in despair. It was pleasant to the ears. I'd heard the voice somewhere before. Those were some gloomy lyrics. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the song that plays in the beginning of the game. Like when you're loading up the game, that song, yeah, that's it. It was on the stage at a concert hall. Last time it had been accompanied by violent and flashing lights that shocked the eyes, and earth-shakingly loud noise. But now, it was in an empty road with no one around, in a collapsed city where death now ruled. Ayase. I pushed Shogo down and looked around me, but the only thing I could see were a few corpses. I looked around for Ayase, trying my best not to stare at the bodies. Where was her voice coming from? I could see a collapsed street in front of me. There was a huge hole opened in the ground. If I remembered right, the subway ran under the street. It didn't seem possible for her to be down there, but I looked over the edge anyway, just to see. It was around 5 meters deep. There were small piles of rubble everywhere. Ayase was lying there. Takumi. I'm coming! I leapt down into the hole. I screwed up the landing and fell face first into a pile of rubble. Ayase's leg was pinned by a large lump of concrete, and she was too heavy for me to even budge it by myself. It was too heavy. I can read so good. It's not just me. There were 3 others here as well, including your sister. Nanami's down here? Why was she here? Didn't the Nanose guy have her? Nanami! Nanami! I ignored the pain I was feeling and forced myself to stand up. I shouted her name, but there was no reply. I looked around and saw one other woman besides Ayase, a portly woman lying face down on the ground. She wasn't moving, but I also couldn't see any injuries. She was probably just passed out. I couldn't see Nanami or the other person. Maybe they'd been buried alive. I needed to do something fast. I glanced up at the hole above me. There was so much dust that it felt like I was going to start coughing just looking at it. Beyond it, I could see the sky. I thought of Shogun, who I had left lying on the ground. I remembered what Numi had said. The more delusions you create, the more it consumes the life of your real self. But there was no time to waste. I pulled out my D-sword from the invisible space. I sat down next to Ayase and looked at her face, making sure to keep her leg out of my field of vision. I stared into her eyes. That was enough. Create a delusion. Make it strong. Make it real. There's not one big piece of concrete on top of Ayase. It's just a lot of smaller pieces. None of them were heavy.
簡単に
I can
足を
pull
引
her
っ張
leg
り
out
出せる
easily.
他の二人も
I can save the others too.
助け出せる
Me and Ayase have created a shared awareness between two Giglomaniacs. It's bound to become real. Ayase smiled in relief. Her fingers gently stroked my cheek.
グラジオールの導きに
It was Gladio who guided you here.
ここに来てくれたの
I blinked and looked up, trembling. The huge block of concrete that was crushing her leg had turned into a bunch of tiny chunks, just like in my delusion. I moved a few of them aside, and she was free. I hadn't for a moment thought they would work this well. She sat up and rubbed her ankle. Fortunately, she didn't seem to be badly injured.
綾瀬の歌が聞こえたんだ
I heard your song.
そ
It
れ
guided
に
me here.
導かれたんだよ
そう
I see.
よかった
Good. I'm glad I kept singing. I lent Ayase a hand to help her to her feet and looked around us.
ナナミは
Where's the enemy? I still couldn't see my sister. Had the delusion failed? Was she already? I started to get worried. Someone. I heard a voice. I looked in the direction it was coming from and saw a hand poking out from the rubble. I grabbed the hand by the fingers and looked through the gaps in the rubble. The gap formed a small tunnel. At the end it was a girl in glasses. I recognized her. It felt like it'd been a long time since I'd seen Yua.
あ
No,
のなぜか
for some reason,
急に
this gap
この
suddenly
隙間ができ
appeared
てついさっきまで
a moment ago.
全く
I couldn't
身
even
動きが
move.
取れなかったんですけど
The delusion worked then. Let's go. She looked away, sounding slightly apologetic.
手を
Hold
し
tight.
っかり掴んでて
I gripped her hand harder, and then I yanked as hard as I could to pull her out of the rubble. Yes, I helped too. Together, we were able to pull her out without too much trouble at all.
ありがとう
Thank you.
ござい
Her whole body was covered in dust. There were tiny chunks of concrete clinging to her hair. But she didn't seem to be hurt. And all that was left was Nanami. I left Yua to Ayase and went to search for her. If Ayase was able to escape that easily, then my delusion had probably worked. And if that was the case, then I might be able to pull her out from a gap like I had with Yua. Just like I thought, after looking under a few piles of rubble, I was able to find her.
ナナミ
Nanami! I called out, but she didn't answer. She seemed to be unconscious. I reached a hand out to touch her, but then hesitated. Right. I remembered how she suddenly disappeared when I touched her yesterday. No, this Nanami was real. She had to be. I reached out and grabbed her shoulder, or rather, her blouse. I could touch her just fine. I could feel her warmth. I pulled her out as hard as I could, just like I'd done with Yua. Unlike the other girls, Nanami's clothes were covered in blood. Her arm in particular was bright red. I laid her face up on the ground to check her breathing. Her breathing was pained and barely there, but she was breathing.
よかった
Good. I was worried about her blood-stained right hand. I went to grasp it to take a look, and my fingers slipped right through it. A delusion? So Nanami's right hand was...
ごめん
I'm sorry.
ごめん
I'm sorry for getting you caught up in this. Nanami let out a soft moan. Her face was covered in dust. I put a hand up to her cheek and softly ran my hand along it. Her eyes opened, just a little. Brother. Her gaze wandered about the room for a second before she saw me.
ナナミ
Nanami. Aw. Suddenly, her face twisted in sadness. Tears came pouring down from her eyes. She gripped my hand tightly with her left hand. Brother. Brother. She pleaded with me in a whisper, but I just shook my head a little.
ナナミの
Your real
本当の
brother
お兄は
is somebody
僕じゃない
else.
よ。
Huh? What the? Her memories were all messed up. And that's how it seemed to Nishijo. Her brother's word triggered something in her. It suddenly felt like she had two brothers. No, it didn't feel like she had two brothers. She had two brothers. She could see both of their faces. One wimpy and helpless looking, one covered in wrinkles. But she was sure that she had... But she was also sure that she only had a single brother. There was a gap, and it was getting bigger. A gap between her memories and what she knew. What was real? What wasn't? She didn't know, and it scared her. She tried to empty out her mind. And suddenly, her own words came back to her, like a rippling on the water. I have to be the big sister now. Suddenly, she was standing in a hallway at dusk. Oh boy. Hang on a sec. I will be right back, guys, but I'm also gonna save because I don't trust the game to not break. Yeah. But I'll be right back. You guys don't miss me too much. Okay? Bye. Ma. I'm back. Hello. No thoughts that empty. Let's see. Yes, I did read that. I'll read it again anyways, though, because I can. Yes, I'm pretty sure I read that. Now I'm doubting myself. Thank you for welcoming me back. Appreciate it. Suddenly, she was standing in a hallway at dusk. The pungent scent of disinfectant hung in her nose. There was a plain, unadorned door in front of her. She was holding its handle, and then, without any conscious intent on her part, her hand opened the door. Hey, are you going to skip dinner again, brother? I keep telling you, you have to eat, or you won't get better. No, don't tell me it's because it's got green peas in it. You're not a little kid anymore. Don't be such a picky eater. I mean, I don't like green peas either, so I know why you wouldn't want to eat them, but if you don't eat them, I'm the one that gets yelled at by that scary head nurse.
Nanami.
Nanami. What? I'm sorry for taking it all out on you for blah 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 blah. Let's try that again. I'm sorry for taking it all out on you for all this time. It's really rare for you to apologize. But you won't have to put up with me anymore. What are you talking about? I'm going to have to go into hiding. So, you don't need to come here anymore. What are you... Goodbye. Her memories ended there. The fact that she had an older brother, a real one. The fact that he was badly ill, and that she spent years taking care of him. The fact that she'd always tried to have her act together to be strong. All these things had vanished from her memories for the past year and a half. The memories had been hidden from her. And in their place were other memories. Her brother was healthy and lived alone in Shibuya. Her mom had asked her to check up on him every once in a while, and so she'd go in his place after school. Go to his place, rather. This had been her habit for a long time, and was normal in her family. She'd never doubted these memories. Why did I forget? 30 minutes after she was rescued from being buried alive, Nanami was finally reunited with her real brother. He was lying on the road. He was breathing, but unconscious. His body was small, thin, covered in wrinkles. He looked so weak. It was the brother she'd always known. This isn't fair. Sure, I complained about my brother a lot, but... She was weeping as she clung to his tiny body. I never wanted to forget about him. How could he be so selfish? It's not fair. She heard a metallic clinking sound coming from his clothing. Something fell out of his breast pocket. Is it the bangle? Huh? It's the bangle! It was what she'd sought for so long. It was what she'd lost when they'd taken her right hand. A cheap bangle with the snowflake design. She stared at his face, confused, but his wrinkled eyes stayed shut. She picked up the bangle with her left hand. It felt just like she remembered. The bangle was the first present her brother had given her. It was her treasure. She looked up, her eyes unconsciously searching for her other brother. He had his back turned to her and held a long sword in his hand. He was walking away. He was going to leave. Nanami's intuition told her this clearly. He was going to leave her without saying anything to her. The thought made her sad.
行っておいで。
Go. Nanami squinted and looked around.
声
Did I
が
just hear a voice? It was her brother's voice as she remembered it. He was speaking directly into her mind, coming from his unconscious body.
彼は僕と
He
一
and I
心
are
同
one
体。
mind and two bodies.
もう一人の
He's your other brother.
お兄なんだから。
Whether it was her brother's voice, or just her imaginings, Nanami couldn't tell, but either way.
うん
Yeah,
分かった
okay. She whispered to her brother as he lay on the ground. And then she stood up and walked toward her other brother. She could barely walk. She spent days in a dark room, pinned to some bizarre object, forced to endure terrible pain. She didn't remember how many times she thought about dying. Her right hand, especially, had a constant pain, like someone had torn clean through the bone with a huge saw. It felt like there was no hand there, but when she looked, she could see one. The confused sensations were driving her insane. Mentally and physically, she was exhausted. If she wasn't careful, she might collapse here, unable to take another step. That's why it took all of her strength and effort to even stretch out her hand. But she wanted to stop him from going, no matter how hard it was for her to do.
待って
Wait. She just barely squeezed out the word, but he heard it. He stopped and turned back at her. She succeeded in keeping him from leaving, but now she wasn't sure what to say. The reality was that this boy wasn't her brother, but her mind kept telling her he was. The two feelings got mixed together in her head, and she couldn't separate them. But the bangle she held in her left hand, it felt cold to the touch, but the fact it was a present from him warmed her heart. It connected the two of them. That's how it felt to her. That was enough of an answer for her.
お兄は
Brother.
本当のお
You
兄
might not
じ
be
ゃな
my
い
real
かもしれ
brother,
ないけ
but
ど頼りにならなくて
he might be a wimp
たく
and
さ
an
んで
otaku and do nothing but collect anime
お
dolls.
人形さんばっかり集めてて口が悪くて
And you're mean,
愛想もな
foul-mouthed,
くて
and you say all
意地悪な
kinds
こと
of nasty
ばっ
things.
かり言うけどお兄も
But
ナ
you're
ナ
my
のお兄
brother
だよ
too. She held back her tears and smiled as best she could.
あ、え、
Thank you,
ありがとう、
Nanami.
ナナミ。
Her other brother gave her a shy smile, and then, relieved, she slowly began to pass out. That's fair, understandable, have a nice day. Nanami staggered like she was about to fall. I quickly ran over to grab her. She was unconscious. Her face was pale. Her breathing was labored.
早く病院に運ばない
We
と。
have to get her to a hospital. Her life is in danger. The large woman, who said her name was Mimosa, spoke sternly as she looked at Nanami's face. Then she turned to look at Shogun.
そっちに寝かせてる
And
か
that
もね。
child too. I mean. I gave Nanami to Mimosa.
二人を頼みま
Take
す。
care of both of them, please.
あなたはどうする
What will you do?
探さなくちゃ。
There's somebody I have to
人がいて。
find. I needed the location of NoAH too. I'd asked Nanami, but she wasn't sure where they'd been holding her. My one chance so was to find the man named Hatono.
必要なことなの
It's necessary, isn't it?
グラジオー
If
ル
we're going to
倒す
defeat
ために
Gladio.
グラジオール。
Gladio. If what she meant was NoAH too.
うん、
Yeah,
そうだ。
that's right. Yasa's expression tensed. She took a step forward. She was dragging her foot a little. Maybe she'd been hurt after all.
一緒に行くわ
I'll go with you,
私も
too.
その必要はないよ。
No need for that. Yasa just shook her head.
一に集
We
まら
need
ないと
all 7 of us.
綾瀬も、それに
I want you
岩も。
and you up. To find a
肌目
man
っていう
named
人を
Hatono.
探してほしい。
Yo was standing behind Momose. When I said her name, I could see her twitch nervously.
その人が
He knows
NoAH
where
の
NoAH
場所
2 is.
知ってるから。一緒に行動しなくても
We don't have to be
僕
together.
は
I
み
can
んなの
see and
見
hear
聞きしたこ
everything
と
you
が
do.
わかる。だから
So, let's
今
split
は
up
手分け
for
して
now.
探して。
Right now. That was the best option we had. We had to hurry. If another earthquake hit, there's no guarantee I'd survive. Understood.
なかった。
Yes, I spoke, looking disappointed.
なんだかよくわからな
And
い
I'm
け
not
ど
sure I follow.
野呂瀬源一が
Genichi Norose is
全ての
behind
黒
all of
幕だ。
this.
そういうこと
So that's it.
それなら
You can let
妹
me
さんたちの
handle
ことは
the two of them.
私に任せなさいな
She puffed her chest out, and then she nodded, as if trying to give me courage.
ただし
Just don't do
無茶しちゃダメ
anything
よ。
stupid.
それと一つ
And
頼まれてほしいん
do
だ
me
け
a
ど
favor.
バンちゃん
If you see Bon,
ヘラヘラ笑ってる
he's a middle-aged
うさんくさそうな
detective
中
who's
年警
always
部に
got a dopey looking grin
私
on
に
his
連絡す
face.
るように伝
Tell
えて
him
くれ
to
る
call me. That's not gonna happen. Was she talking about Nosujibon? I knew he was dead. His partner had shot and killed him. I'd seen it happen while unconscious. I tried to tell Mimose that, but
まったく
sheesh.
あの人は
Where
こん
did
な
that
時に
idiot wander
どこを
off
ほっつき
to, I
歩いてるんだ
wonder.
かまあ
Well,
案外どこ
knowing
かで
him, he might be
怪
out there
我人を
helping
助
the
けてるのかも
wounded
しれないけど
somewhere.
ね
But when I heard her say that, I just couldn't tell her. That's fair.
というわけでよ
So
ろし
yeah,
く
let him know if you see him.
はい。
Okay. I nodded. It was a promise that I knew I could never keep. But I couldn't think of any other way to answer her.
あの
Nishijo.
西条
Yua's voice was barely audible, and she wasn't looking me in the eye. For the past few minutes, she'd been glancing over at me, waiting for a chance to speak.
あなたのこ
I'm sorry
と疑って
for suspecting
ごめん
you.
なさい。
Heh, sus.
あ、
私
I said
西条くん
all those
傷つけるよ
terrible
うな
things to you.
言って
The lenses of her glasses were covered with dust, but even if I couldn't see her eyes, I could tell she was crying.
謝っても許し
I
ても
don't
らえると
expect you to forgive
思
me,
って
even if I apologize.
それでも
But still,
謝らせて
let
く
me
ださ
say
い。
I'm sorry,
ごめんなさい。
and I'm so sorry. She bowed deeply. I just turned my back to her without answering.
僕のベースに
And
ある
there's a Sarah figure in
Sarah
the
のフィギュア。
base.
はい。
Huh?
よかったら
I'd like you to have it.
もらってくれる？
It'd be a huge shock when I found out she lied to me, but now I knew what she'd been going through. But still, it felt like saying I'd forgiven her would just be arrogant. I'd always thought of her as my enemy. I wasn't entitled to an apology, and didn't have the right to forgive her.
あの
Um,
いいんですか？
you're sure?
もらってほしい。
I want you to have it.
はい。
Okay.
はい。
Okay.
また一緒に
Let's go buy
Figure.
figures together
買いに行き
again
ましょうね。
sometime. She finally gave me the kind smile I'd seen when we first met. I nodded. And then glanced over at Ayase and Momose too. And finally, I took one long look at Nanami's Shogun. And then I started to walk, alone, through the piles of rubble. Shinsan Station was one station away from Shibuya on the Inokashira line. By train, it only took a minute to get there. The station itself was covered by a tunnel, and the only from the outside came from the entrance at the end of the platform. Because of the earthquake, all the lights were off. It was far darker than usual. Naomi-sama stepped inside, supporting the body of Kozue Oriharu as she walked. There was no need to buy a ticket. There weren't any station attendants around, and the ticket machines weren't working either. She looked over at the rails and saw that they were badly bent. Of course, the trains hadn't been running since yesterday. Pinyin, it really hurts. Kozue's left leg was covered in blood. She cut it badly on glass during the earthquake. Senna had tried to stop the bleeding with a towel, but the cut turned out to be deeper than she'd thought. Kozue was going to need real medical attention. Giglomaniac powers couldn't heal injuries. The pain made your brain realize the injury was real, whether you wanted it to or not. You couldn't create a shared awareness that the injury didn't exist. You couldn't make it so it never happened. Your human instincts wouldn't let you. I can't walk anymore, NoAH. Kozue said telepathically, looking like she was about to cry. But Senna said nothing. She'd come straight here, to Shinsen Station on foot. When she reached the empty platform, she suddenly let go of Kozue. With one leg too weak to move, Kozue dropped to the ground. Senna paid no attention to Kozue, who was looking up at her in confusion. She was staring at a single point on the platform, teeth gnashing in rage. I finally found you. She was staring at a figure sitting on the far end of the platform. Oh, that's your dad, NoAH. A homeless man, dressed in filthy rags. He had a sign reading, "The minds of men will perish." Senna began to slowly walk towards the man. Just who is that message for? Her voice was ice cold. These are my last words, not for those who can turn negative into positive. Senna. The homeless man, Hatano, spoke her name coldly, without even looking up at her. You don't have the right to say my name. I've spent half a year thinking, you know, about how I was going to kill you. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? My reasons are selfish. Dying at your hand may be the best way I can atone. This'll be quick then. Senna rebooted her D-sword. She decided the method she'd use to kill her father. She'd kill him with the D-sword. It was simple, which meant it was closest to the truth. How she killed him didn't matter. What mattered was that she killed him. I'm sorry. He still wasn't looking up at her. Why are you apologizing? For making you bear the shame of killing your own father. I'll accept any shame, as long as I can kill you. You killed Bobby and my sister. I did. And the way they died was so awful. Senna's voice had been completely devoid of emotion, but now was starting to waver, just a little. And I didn't want you to see it. No. Forget I said that. Why did you do it? There's no point in explaining the past. You wouldn't accept it, and it wouldn't change things. Senna lowered the D-sword toward Hatano's head. So you're running away again. I was wrong. That's all there is to it. I'm disappointed in you. You were still expecting something from me. What? And everything in this world runs on electricity, including humanity itself. Dice height Mike, but grown up? Nah. I mean, he is homeless, so that's the same, but, nah, Dice is a much, much better character than this guy. Welcome in, though. Took you long enough. Yes, see Bon Bon. Marvel redeemed it. So I get to be squishy 2 days in a row. So cute. Yes. You were the one who said that, Senna. Senna's shoulders were shaking. For almost 3 years, ever since Hatano had begun the Wano project, the two of them had barely seen each other, and yet he'd seen through her almost instantly. Something felt wrong. The uncertainty in her heart turned into raging anger that threatened to make her lose control. Senna, don't be deceived. If we're all electricity, then your hatred for me is nothing but an electric signal to you. Hatano kept talking. Senna tried to force herself to calm down. Calm down. Nothing you say matters. Don't let your emotions drive your actions. If you do, you'll start to contradict yourself. You mustn't accept those words. They're a psychological attack. Stop making decisions. We're done talking. Thank you for your contribution to the challenge. Senna went to raise her D-sword, but ever so slightly before she could, Hatano suddenly stood up. I don't have the head pad set up on this model, no. That's not... let's see. Let's find out. Nope, not that one. Oops, wrong button. I'm setting up the head pat redeem, hang on. This one? Yeah, okay. Here we go. Now we have head pad set up on this one. Let's stop after 10 seconds, right? Has it been 10 seconds? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Your critter's acting weird? What happened? But ever so slightly before she could, Hatano suddenly stood up. Kozue was watching them nervously. She thought about trying to stop them, but her foot hurt too much for her to move. She wasn't sad, but in her heart, she was sobbing. Hatano walked toward her with broad strides. Senna was slow to react, so she changed her stance to strike him when he got close. And when she went to move, she slipped on some loose stones. She lost her balance. Her uncertainty was showing in her movements. The sharpness had disappeared from her demeanor. She was afraid. Hating her father was how she kept herself from spiraling out of control. But now that she was face to face with him, she was afraid of confronting him. She just didn't know why. But she was sure that what he just said a moment ago was the cause. Hachiina was running at her with incredible speed. No! She fell backwards. And as she did, she swung her D-sword upward. The blade had no weight, and so no center of gravity. First it cut through the tiles of the platform floor, and then it sliced into his shoulder. The cut was clean, like a hot knife through butter. Senna was pushed backwards by her father's hands. Red blood spilled from his wound. There was a look of relief in his eyes. Senna bit her lip. Just as something struck him in the chest. It passed through his body from behind before whizzing by Senna's cheek. You have a layer for the outline of a silhouette, and a different one for the outline of a skeleton. You go to hide the silhouette, and only a section of it disappears. Means you drew on the wrong layer, right? Wrong. You go to hide only the skeleton, and only the skeleton disappears. But the silhouette only goes away completely if I hide both layers. You tried restarting the app, but nothing. Could you send a screenshot of, like, your layers? You can just text me the screenshot or Discord DM me and let me know when you send the message so I know to tab out and look. And I do, like, mean the layers with, like, the layer preview. Yeah. Blood poured not just from his shoulder, but from his chest as well. The crimson liquid spurting out from the wound splashed onto Senna's face. A bullet? Senna had fallen flat on her back. She looked up quickly and tried to find the man who'd fired the gun. Oops, I missed. God damn it, Suwa, go away. No one likes you. The man was standing in the gap between the Shinsen Station tunnel and the tunnel that led to Shibuya. That railroad crossing, that was the one place where you could see the sky. Or that was the whatever. He had a gun in his hand, naturally. Pretty good shot from this distance, though, don't you think? Senna's father fell down next to her. His chest was already covered in blood. Had he protected me? Me of all people? Yeah, he did. Good luck. Have fun with that. Senna looked in disbelief at the blood spreading across the station's floor's tiles. Words are chaos. Her father whispered with his dying breaths. You're too honest and open, Senna. That's what makes you so sad. That's what makes me love you so much. Oh. Hello. Thank you so much for the raid. Let me go ahead and give you a shout out. How was your stream? What were you up to? I am a little sea bunny blorb. That's not my normal form, but it is a redeem. How goes the game? And it's been a time, I'll be honest. Both of a good time and a painful time. As goes the psychological horror. Stream was good? That's good. You were playing Little Nightmares too. Did you have fun? I hope you did. But welcome on in, Raiders. For those of you who do not already know me, my name is Sakyu, or even Q is acceptable. I consider myself a variety streamer, though I do stream mostly visual novels. Like tonight, we are currently playing Chaos Head NoAH, which is the first game in the Science Adventure series, the second game being the most notable title, Steins Gate. We are on the last chapter getting our first ending in this, which is exciting, but that means things are crazy. Stinky Goblin Raid. Oh dear. I'm glad you had fun. Yeah, if you guys need to go to sleep, eat food, do whatever, there is no pressure to stay. Go ahead and take care of yourselves. Otherwise, of course, you are more than welcome to stay and watch, even if it's horribly out of context since this is the end of the game. But yeah. You're gonna be lurking while you prep for Vods? Sounds good. I hope you sleep well when you do too. Yeah. Is that? Yep, that's speaking. Okay, let's see. You sent the message, but you did not send a photo. Was that on purpose, or was that an accident? There we go. It's so small. How can I zoom in? Open a browser. I can't really tell what's going on, if I can be honest. It just looks like missing nose, if I can also be honest. Because normally doing that would give me a pretty good idea of whatever is going on with the layers that you mentioned. Is there any chance you accidentally made a clipping mask? Because if you did do that, that could cause parts to disappear. It doesn't look like you did, based off of the screenshot you sent me, but like, I can't really see what's going on in each individual layer either. They just look like missing nose. Maybe after stream I can take a look on your computer directly. That might be the better option, to be honest, but shrugs. You don't even know how to make a clipping mask on Krita, to be quite honest. That's fair. I could probably help you figure that out too, but that's a later problem. There's not really much I can do for you right this second, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess back to our familial drama that's happening right now. The bullet had been aimed at Senna, and Hatano had saved her. She'd been trying to kill her father, but instead, he saved her life. Damn you. Senna's grip on the blade tightened. Nah, it doesn't matter. The plan was for both the Hatanos to die here, after all. A strange noise was echoing across the platform. Senna instantly realized that it was being caused by NoAH too. How long had it been here? She felt infuriated. Infuriated at the man with the gun who'd interrupted her after she finally found her father. You think you know how you goofed? Alright, sounds good. How dare you interrupt me? And she stood up and looked at him. A baby's cry suddenly echoed across the dark platform. Senna suddenly felt something different in her hands. For some reason, instead of a sword. She was holding the rotted, desiccated corpse of a baby. She threw it away. But then she realized it was her own sister, who she'd seen just one time. Senna began to feel uncertain once more. She couldn't take her eyes off of it. She couldn't forgive herself for throwing away her little sister, for finding her appearance disgusting. It had been the same way last time, when she'd been forced to witness her mother's end, when she'd seen her mother go insane and die. When she'd seen that, it wasn't just the sorrow or fear that she'd felt. The thing she felt most was disgust. And that feeling had lingered in her heart as a sense of guilt, and she'd been averting her gaze from it through the act of hating her father. You think you accidentally clicked on the copy layer button instead of the add a layer button? You can deal no, that's what you did, but that seems likely, yeah. Well, that's exciting. Have fun with that, I guess.
私は
I don't think I actually read that. Or maybe I did. That feeling had lingered in her heart as a sense of guilt, and she'd been averting her eyes from it through the act of hating her father. Yeah, I did read that. Yeah.
私
Even if her mind knew this was a delusion, the feeling she'd locked away inside her mind had awakened, and she was paralyzed by them. Oh boy. It wasn't just Senna. Kozue was the same way. She saw a huge mirror appear in front of her, in her own reflection, weeping blood from its leg. It was asking her a question.
お前は誰
Who are you? Kozue was frozen in terror. Huge tears rolled down her face. The wound she wanted to forget, the past she didn't want to remember. Rotted tears were pouring from her heart. She wanted to run away. She wanted to look away, so she wouldn't have to see the mirror. But her body wouldn't move the way she wanted. The girl in the reflection wasn't crying at all.
お前は誰
Who are you?
お前は誰
Who are you? 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 Who are you?
私は誰
Who am I?
私は誰
Who am I? 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 She's Saltzerfall? I definitely butchered that one. The name of a psychological concept where a person can see things but no longer identify what they are. Interesting. After the human brain receives visual information about an object, it needs to add in context such as past experience, the surrounding environment, or known facts in order to determine the object's identity. For instance, in reading this paragraph, you've seen the letter A on the page many times, and your brain has unconsciously identified it as the first letter of the alphabet. However, if for some reason this process of identification were to fail, you would see the letter A, but no longer be capable of understanding what it is. In this case, it would simply look like a meaningless shape. This failure of identification is referred to the Gestaltzerfall, from the German word Gestalt or shape. Interesting. And since they pointed out the letter A, guess what was way more in front of my face? The fucking A's. Thanks. Interesting though. Just like when she lost the power to speak. Just like when her mind had broken. And the person in the mirror, the one asking the questions, ceased to look like her. She couldn't be sure of the sound of her voice. She couldn't be sure of the way her hair looked. She couldn't be sure of the shape of her nose. She couldn't be sure of the color of her eyes. She couldn't be sure of the thickness of her lips. She couldn't be sure of her appearance. She couldn't be sure of her own face.
私は
Who am I?
君は
You're
コズピーだよ
Kozopi. The vision of herself in the mirror, which had threatened to split into countless fragments, was frozen in place by the sudden voice.
私は
I'm
コズピ
Kozopi.
私は
I'm Kozopi. Her identity solidified once more. Kozue came back to her senses. The huge mirror in front of her shattered. Kozue searched for the voice of the one who'd saved her. And there, in the corridor leading to the turnstiles, she saw him. She screamed his name with the voice she thought she'd lost forever. Her real voice. Takumi! Kazuki yelled, with her real voice, not the one from inside her mind. Her voice was the first time I'd actually heard her speak. It was thanks to Kazuki that I was able to get this far. I'd heard her screams for help all the way from the police box at Dogenzaka Hill. I followed the voice and found the two of them. Sena and Kozuki, trembling at delusions I couldn't see, and Hatono, lying on the ground covered in blood. I finally found him, and it was too late. Looks like today's my lucky day. A man was standing near the railway crossing, holding a gun. He was spitting it in with his fingers, like some kind of Old West gunman. The man was wearing a suit, but he also had a backpack on too. The machine inside was making an awful noise. Mamoru Suwa, a detective assigned to Section 1 of the Metropolitan Police. I'd met him before. And I knew what he'd done. I came here to get rid of the Hatanos, since they were becoming a nuisance. But Nishijo, I'm happy to see you here too. I'm supposed to capture you if I find you. Who told you to do that? It's a secret. He had a grin on his face. The way he smiled reminded me of Bon, his partner. But the difference was this. Bon's smile was an act, either to make someone let their guard down or just piss them off. But Suwa's slight grin was a reflection of who he really was. Do you know where Norose is? Listen, Nishijo. Suwa shook his head and sighed. You really need to show me some respect. I'm your elder, you know. Okay, but you're also a fucking bastard, so you don't deserve respect. Sir cosplays Darth Spider to kill people. You're the one who killed Bon. The man named Bon, rather. And if I am, you're a detective. You're not supposed to kill people. And you're one to talk. I clenched my D-sword tighter. I don't need to show you any respect at all. You sure that's the attitude you want to take? You know, I could just kill you right here, you virgin. What does... Okay, you know what? You need to be off my screen immediately. Can we kill him like that? That would be cool. Even from this distance, I could see it clearly. The way the smile disappeared from his face. And then, without taking a step from where he was, he waved the hand that wasn't holding the gun. Takumi, watch out! An impact, pain, a sudden sensation. I looked in surprise at my shoulder and saw a cross-shaped object I recognized sticking out of it. No, it wasn't a cross. It was a stake. The cross-shaped stakes used in the crucified murder. It was so fast I hadn't even seen it hit me. In the darkness of the station, I hadn't even realized it was coming at me. Sue had thrown it from that distance with perfect accuracy. I tried touching it. It felt cold and smooth. Was it a delusion? Or real? The pain was getting worse. The strength was draining from my hands. I couldn't hold my D-sword anymore. And I'll show it to you again. Suwa spoke in a cold voice that belied his anger. I'll show you the crucified murder one more time. Okay. Guess we're doing this now. Another cross-shaped stakes appeared in Suwa's hands. He flung it at Takumi Nishijo, barely keeping his raging anger in check. His take ignored air resistance and all other physical laws. It flew in a straight line and struck Takumi in the arm, like it had a will of its own. 15 had already hit, not one had missed. Takumi's shoulder, his arm, his wrist, his hand, his hips, his thighs, his knees, his stomach. Blood was pouring from the deep wounds. It's no fun playing darts if you never miss, but... Another stake had already appeared in his hand. He threw it too. It feels like I'm an all-powerful god. It was a very strange sensation, I thought to myself. You can't even hear me, Suwa thought. The pain from each stake felt real to me. Suwa threw another stake at that helpless Takumi. I'm just a normal person. But now I've got the same power as all of you. Every wonderful thing that was happening was because of the NoAH 2 in Suwa's backpack. Every awful thing that was happening was because of the NoAH 2 terminal in his backpack. With that terminal, he didn't need to be close to NoAH 2 to benefit from its power. With this terminal, he didn't need to be close to NoAH 2 to benefit from its power, but that was the same. He would become an artificial Giggle-maniac. He could become an artificial Giggle-maniac. Suwa had let the power take complete control of him, so had given himself over to this wonderful power. Suwa was an insane fanatic, willing to do whatever he had to do for the sake of his leader and his church's teachings. Suwa was a brave soldier, willing to do whatever he had to for the sake of his leader and his church's teachings. This power is a gift from God. He lets me fight for the sake of the divine light, for the things I believe in. Suwa threw another stake. The stake pierced my neck. The stake pierced Takumi's neck. The pain threatened to tear my body apart. The pain was maddening. Suwa's heart was filled to the brim with cruel joy. He wondered just how much pain Takumi could endure. Like torture, death was gradually approaching. Like torture, Suwa was gradually bringing him closer to death. I was helpless to resist. I tried to force what strength I had into my legs to keep from falling over. Takumi was helpless to resist, but he didn't fall over. More and more stakes hit my body. Suwa flung more and more stakes at his body. My chest, my stomach, my nails, everywhere on my body. Takumi's chest, his stomach, his nails, everywhere on his body. The thick, sharp stakes kept hitting me without mercy. The thick, sharp stakes kept hitting him without mercy. You're like an insect pinned to a collection board. And not a rhino beetle or a butterfly. A little brat like you is more like a stink bug. I couldn't even stand now. Takumi couldn't even stand now. It was sheer strength of will that kept me from falling over. Suwa couldn't understand how he hadn't fallen over yet. But it wouldn't last much longer. But he probably wouldn't last much longer. Oh wow, another raid, damn. Hello, welcome on in. Cozy Minecraft raid. Oh. Interesting, interesting. Definitely in opposite vibes of what's happening here. Cozy Minecraft Night raid to Chaos Head NoAH. Thank you so much for the raid and the follow. I do appreciate it. Let me go ahead and give you a shout out. Yes, some beans. Well, I hope you had a good Minecraft stream. Let's see. I can type. But yeah, my name is Saku, or even Q is acceptable. I considered myself a variety streamer, though I do stream mostly visual novels. Like tonight we are currently playing Chaos Head NoAH, which is the first in the Science Adventure series games, and the most notable title is in fact Steins Gate. And I did beat you to the shoutouts. Take that. But yeah, welcome on in, Raiders. If you guys need to rest, go ahead and please do rest. Like, go feed yourselves, the typical cares and stuff. No thoughts head empty. It was a great time. We were hanging out on a custom modded server while spreading information for Palestine. Ooh, that's great. I love to hear that. I actually do, in my Discord community server, I do have a little, like, post for like resources for Palestine, and if you guys happen to have more resources that I don't already have, like be it just for general information or ways to help, that would be cool. Let me go ahead and do that. If you guys feel so inclined to join the Discord and have all that fun stuff. Yeah, that does sound nice, and thank you for the hydrate, stretch, and posture check. My posture actually is doing just fine, but I'll do a big stretch. That felt good. And I will take some sips, yes. Yeah, for those of you who are new, this is not my typical model. It is one of my channel point redeems. So yeah, I just get to be a squishy little guy for tonight's stream, which also doesn't really go well with what's happening in Chaos Head. We are currently on the last chapter, so if you don't know anything about this, there's a lot of missing context as a result. But yeah, go take care of yourselves, rest up if you gotta, but also you're more than welcome to stay, of course, as well. Yeah, back to this double perspective. The first line is from Takumi's perspective, and the bottom line is from Suwa. It's very interesting. You know, the biggest way right now is donating eSIMs. You think for internet connection, since a lot of aid can't reach the people, so internet and stuff is one of the most direct ways. I actually heard that the eSIMs, like, thing, actually, like, is no longer accepting it because they got already so many donations and whatnot, so they closed up shop because they are all good, which is cool. I actually do have a TikTok in my Palestine resources that does cover that they said that, but I couldn't find the original website, unfortunately. I didn't know what it was called, but it's reminding you of me and you again. That's fair. But yeah, free Palestine, good shit. I couldn't see. It was like there were censorship bars over my vision. His eyes were empty. He probably couldn't see anything anymore. If you got any last words, I'll hear them, but make it 10 words or less. Well then. Suwa whispered to me with a victorious grin, gripping the next stake in his hand. Suwa whispered to Takumi with a victorious grin, gripping the next stake in his hand. Well, that's not exactly any words, but the next one would kill me. The next one would kill him.
Saki.
When you called me a virgin. Did that hurt you? I turned my eyes and glared at Suwa, using his voice as a guide. It sounded very far away. Takumi was looking at Suwa, the light almost gone from his eyes. We love that. eSIMs, ANERA, PCRF, PRCs, medical aid for Palestinians, and USCPR are the main charities you've mentioned. Oh, cool. Good to know. Takumi was looking at Suwa, the light almost gone from his eyes. This is the last one. Why is Suba evil, man? Because... I don't know. The divine light won't save you. I could sense the stake Suba threw, ripping through the air in front of me. Suba flung the stake in his hands. You do need to lurk really quickly to get food, though. I hope the game is fun. Yeah, no worries. Go ahead. Do take care of yourself. I will be here. Yeah. Didn't you know? The stake would be the fatal one. The stake would be the one that delivered the promised gospel. Yeah, that's the same. Okay. And the one it would kill was... Virgins have really strong imaginations. There's the dull thud. The stake embedded itself deep within the forehead. Takumi is having a bad day. I think everyone in Shinjuku is having a bad day today. In Chaos Head. A terrible, overwhelming pain boiled up from within Suba's body. The terrible, overwhelming pain I'd been feeling vanished from my body, like I'd never been there at all. Oh, so that flipped too. Suba screamed a voiceless scream. I took a deep breath and ran my tongue across my dry lips. Suba's entire body was covered with the cross-shaped stakes. There's not a single cross-shaped stake in my hand. He looked up to see a stake sticking out of his forehead. I looked up to see a cloudy gray sky. The miracle of the resurrection is a story. A delusion. What did you do? Delusion synchronization. The melding of one delusion into another. An evasion of the mind. Like two ripples in the water canceling each other out. Like two wavelengths resonating. Intertwining with one another. Melting together. The causality he'd been creating had been altered. This altered the causality another created. They'd been switched. I'd switched them. It was impossible. Suwa couldn't believe it. I could see from Suwa's face that he thought it was impossible. He didn't believe it. If you're a soldier of God, then die with your Messiah. You know what? That's a pretty strong line, damn. Messiah, a savior. In Judaism and Christianity, the Messiah is the one believed to bring peace to the world. Christians believe Jesus Christ to be their savior. That's a metal line, yeah. Takumi flung the stake aside. I flung the stake aside. Suwa's vision rapidly began to go dark. The light was rapidly fading from Suwa's eyes. Then one more thing. But can we talk about Church of the Divine Light? Me. Boy, that sounds like a cult. It is a cult. Congratulations. I don't need your salvation. Suwa didn't say a word. He had died on his feet. I went back inside the station. Kozupi was looking at me in shock. From the look of it, she'd seen the whole thing and hadn't believed it. Her leg was covered in blood, and it looked like she was in a lot of pain. Kozupi, are you okay? She nodded several times, still lying on the ground, but she couldn't stand on her own. She looked up at me with shining eyes. Takumi, what did you do? What did you do? He's just talking with her actual voice. It's really cute. Kozupi, you're talking normally, huh? What? Oh, you're right. She was looking at me in confusion, a finger on her lip. She quickly had something more important to ask, it seemed. Is it true that virgins have good imaginations? That's what you took away from it? Is that it? Okay, Kozuki.
すごいよ。
It's true. Sana had said that ignorance was a sin, but I didn't think that was true. Ignorance helped you perfect a delusion. If you were ignorant, you could expand the delusion in any direction you desired. You could create delusions you'd never be able to make if you knew what something was really like. Delusions were what virgins were best at. Please. Come to think of it, where was Senna? I searched for her along the darkened platform. Senna was standing on the platform, body slumped. At her feet was...
畑野さん。
I don't know. I hate that logic stands. Yeah, that's fair. Hisei Hatano, lying in a pool of blood. He wasn't moving at all. Even I could tell he was dead. I hadn't made it in time. I thought that if I found him, he could tell me where NoAH 2 was, but...
NoAH 2 は
NoAH 2 is right
Shibuya
next to
駅のすぐ
Shibuya
横にある。
Station.
Eh?
Huh? Senna whispered, as if she'd read my mind. She was looking down at Hatano, at the corpse of her own father.
この男が死ぬ間
Just
際
before he died, he sent one
私
last
の
message
心に
to my
伝えて
mind.
きた。渋谷駅の
The
東
east
口
entrance to Shibuya
ビル
Station,
の屋上に
a
ある
closed-off planetarium on
今
top
は
of the
閉鎖さ
building.
れたプラネタリウムそこに
And that's where
NoAH
NoAH 2
2
is.
どうも。
Thanks. I wasn't sure if I should say anything to Senna or not. She hated her father. She wanted to kill him. Her wish had been granted, but now she looked so sad and alone.
くそ
Damn it all.
私をかばって
You think you atone for your sins by
それで
saving
罪を
me?
償ったつもりか
Senna's words were directed at her father. He was now gone forever.
お前は
You admitted your
自分の罪を
sins,
認
and
め
then
た
you practically committed suicide.
その上で
As if to
私に
shove
見
it
せ
in my
つける
face.
許せない
I can't forgive you.
私は
Never
お前
forgive
を
you.
許さない
セナさん
Senna's heart
心が
is
泣いてる
crying.
の本当は
She didn't really want to kill her dad, Nora.
殺したくなかったのら
Just like Kosuke had whispered, Senna's strong, tough attitude was now completely gone. She was sobbing. She fell to her knees right there. Why didn't you try to live and atone for what
生
you
きて
did?
罪を償おうとしないんだどうして
Why did you leave me all alone?
どうして
Why?
セナ。
Senna.
日常。
Nishijo. Please.
お願い
Senna looked up at me. Her face was wet with tears. There's no trace of the stern expression that had been there before.
NoAH 2を
Destroy. NoAH 2.
壊して
It was the sad, broken face of a girl who'd lost her family
僕を殺そうとしたく
and
せに
tried to kill me.
君
You
の
don't
お
have
願
the
いなん
right
て
to ask me for anything.
聞く義理はないよ。
たくみさん
Takumi. I turned toward the tunnel heading to Shibuya Station, leaving Senna and Kosupi behind me. Two big, gaping mouths, and beyond them, only darkness. Passing through them would bring me to Shibuya via the shortest possible route.
僕は
And I'm just going for my own
僕の目的の
reasons.
ためだけにノア2を
Going
壊
to
す。
destroy NoAH 2,
絶
no
対
matter
に
what. Senna said something, I thought, but I wasn't listening. Of course. This ugly bastard. Kozo Inohana, member of the lower house of the Japanese National Diet, Nudai Kuramochi, founder and leader of the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light, were looking at the huge machine in front of them with satisfaction. It was NoAH too, and was giving off an eerie roar. I was a little worried when you said it would kill 5,000 people. It was a big task, getting everything in order, especially keeping the committee of 300 from finding out. Thank you for your cooperation. When I say bow to them, shallowly. But now that this finished, 5,000 is a tiny, meaningless number. We're seeing the effects already. The cultivation of mankind has begun. The day when the whole world becomes ours is not far off at all. Inohana and Kuramochi looked at each other, sharing an unnerving grin. Norose watched them, unmoving and unblinking. I must say that, old Norose, you certainly are a man possessed of interesting tastes. I can read. Whatever are you referring to? Inohana gave him a nasty smile. He jerked his head in the direction of the artwork next to NoAH too. It's a fine piece of work, very artistic. I'd like to have one for myself, I think. If you're in need of materials, I'll gladly offer you a selection from the finest of my believers. That's a very kind offer you're making, Mr. Kuramochi. What you see is bait. Bait? To make NoAH 2 more perfect than it is. Well, if you say so, I won't inquire further. What I would like to see, though, is a practical demonstration of just what NoAH 2 is capable of. That's an excellent idea. Why don't we have him do it right now? Norose gave a small shrug. His face was still an expressionless mask. How about this, then? Norose began speaking. By the time his sentence was finished, the demonstration had already begun. Both Inohana and Kuramochi were suddenly holding pistols in their hands. It happened without the slightest change on the part of Norose, or even NoAH too. Amazing. Just like the real thing. Almost like a magic trick. It's no mere magic trick, I assure you. The guns themselves are quite real. Inohana and Kuramochi stared at the weapons intently, before giving a satisfied smile. Splendid. Really. Indeed. The power to surpass God himself. I'll keep the gun as a souvenir, I think. Such tiny, unimportant little men. Norise's whisper went unheard by the other two. Now, let's discuss the rest of our plan. First, we need to eliminate the committee of 300. Norose, you've done excellent work. We'll contact you later with your next task. Reading. The two went to leave the planetarium, both satisfied and pleased with themselves, but there's no need for that. What? What do you mean? Only then did the expression on Norose's face change. His eyes narrowed, and he tilted his head very slightly to look at them from a height. He was looking down on them, both in a physical sense and in sheer contempt. I will take over the plan from now on, but not for the petty goals that you espouse, but for a more noble idea. I don't trust this fucker. Don't trust fuckers that you can count how many teeth they have in their mouth. Norose's words were completely polite, but both Inohana and Kuramochi understood exactly what they meant and were enraged. You're going to betray us then? Do you think you've become a god? The committee of 300 won't let you get away with this. Both of you are members of the committee, but you betrayed yourselves, didn't you? Nonase was staring at both of them. The look in his eyes was of pure disgust. His cold gaze, like he was looking at something filthy, could only mean one thing. This whole time, he'd been using Inohana and Kuramochi for his own purposes. All of this was part of the plan. All according to Keikaku, as it is both of your deaths right here. Bastard! Nonsense! Both Kuramochi and Inohana pointed their guns on Onose. They pulled their triggers. Yeah, the guns that he gave you, that's gonna be so effective. Not nonsense. Bursts of fire erupted from the gunshots at the same time. The noise of the gunshots echoed throughout the dome. But a vision of the future. But it wasn't Hirose that collapsed, but Inohana and Kuramochi. For some reason, the two of them had pointed their guns at each other just before pulling the trigger. Death was instantaneous. The two of them both collapsed, identical holes in their skulls. Neither were breathing. They were just now lumps of meat. NoAH 2 is in my hands. It appears you were too petty to understand what that means. Norose's demonstration wasn't simply creating a pistol. He made the two of them both think the other was Norose. Damn. It was also part of the demonstration, as well as their deaths. Mentally strangling Norose? Fair. With NoAH 2's power, it was simple. Norose turned his gaze to the artwork. There was Rimi Sakihata, hanging, crucified in a cross-shaped object. Yeah, I saw that coming. Yurimi had begged him to let Nanami go, and he agreed, on the condition that she become his hostage instead. Nanami's psychological attacks had drained much of the life from her. Even now she hung there helplessly. But when Norose approached, her shoulders shook, just a little. You never do anything yourself. You always get other people to do it for you. You're the petty one. Norose's palm struck her across the cheek. Then he grabbed her jaw and forced her to look at him. Her expression was dead, but there was still a bright, burning light in her half-opened eyes. Why don't you talk to Takumi Nishijo for help? Or call? He whispered in her ear. Leave him out of this. Which him are you referring to? Both of them. Neither one would serve my purposes just fine. The creator of IR2, or his perfect copy. Both of them have monstrously strong powers. With their code samples, NoAH 2 could be even more complete. More powerful than God. Numi looked down, pain on her face. Nonase tore his hand away from her jaw, then looked up at NoAH 2 with a satisfied smile on his lips. No. Call to them. Neither of them. I'll be here to welcome them. If anything, he was looking forward to it. Looking forward to Takumi Nishijo overcoming the trial that he laid out for him, and coming here. The D-sword was my light as I walked through the dark tunnel. I found myself walking faster. I never walked through a train tunnel before. I knew there weren't any trains coming, but still, I kept looking in front and behind me to make sure. The distance between Shinsen Station and Shibuya was less than a minute by train. It should be less than a kilometer away. Fortunately, the Inokashira line tunnel hadn't collapsed completely. It felt like I could make it to Shibuya Station without too much trouble. And there's one thing bothering me though. What Kozupi had said before I left. She told me this.
たくさんのぐもぐもドロドロ
There are
って
lots
いう
of really
意識がね
icky,
待ち構えてる
wormy
のら
minds waiting for you. Wormy? Is that a word? Like, is that an actual word? Teachy analysis.
コズピ
Kozupi.
力になれ
Can't
ない
help
け
you,
ど
but... Oh, you're also questioning it. That makes me concerned.
気をつけてね
Be careful,
たくみさん
Takumi. Icky, wormy minds. Whatever that meant. I could assume they weren't friendly. I was starting to get scared. I was really lonely. I was here alone, in this pitch-black tunnel. You think it's just a Kozupi thing? It could be. It could also not be. Who knows? The idea of something awful waiting for me terrified me. I thought for a moment about turning back and heading to Shibuya Station via the surface. It was a tempting idea. I think she's combining gross and roomy, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. That's likely. Anything is possible. If you put your mind to it, you can definitely make it reality here. You know, Gwyrmy. I Gwyrm, you Gwyrm. He, she, it Gwyrms. The study of Gwyrmology. Come on, Taku. It's basic stuff. You're right, you're right. I thought for a moment about turning back and heading to Shibuya Station via the surface. It was a tempting idea, but I couldn't afford to lose that much time. I drove away the fear by thinking about Mimi's smile. I held the D-sword in front of me to light up the tunnel. The red light was eerie, and it just made me feel more afraid. Looks at my red light. Suddenly, something felt off. I felt like I caught a glimpse of something strange. I looked around harder to see what it could be. There, 10 meters ahead of me in the tunnel, I saw something sticking out of the ground. I looked closer. It wasn't sticking out of the ground. It was about 20 centimeters tall, and it was a Seiraton figure. How peculiar. What the hell was an anime figure doing here? It was completely out of place. This was the dark subway tunnel, a train line connecting two stations. Most people would never be allowed here in their entire lives. And there, in the middle of the tracks, was an anime figure. It was my favorite version too, the post-awakening version, when her chest was smashed in. Rip. Was that my figure? The one I dropped in the confusion at Scramble Crossing? What was it doing here? It was standing straight up, with a seductive smile on its face looking at me.
なんで
What is Seira doing here?
ふーん
Hmm. So that's what I look like to you, Taki. I heard a voice. It was Seira's voice. The way I'd always imagined it in my head.
なんでもいいけど
Whatever. At the time it took for me to blink, she'd grown from a figure to full human size. She shook her sexy body at me, just like a real human would do. Her huge breasts bounced, her hair waved around her body. Uh-huh. Was this my delusion?
ねえタッキー
Come on, Taki.
遊ぼうよ
Let's play. I heard a voice behind me. I turned around in surprise, and there was another Seiraton there.
リミッチのことなんてほっ
Just
といて
forget
さ
about Rimi. Not just behind me, to my left, to my right. The Seiratons were multiplying. They were pouring forth out of the darkness. I watched them, feeling seriously creeped out. Before too long, the number of Seiratons had reached the 3 digits. Oh jeez. Oh dear.
私と
Come on, let's have some naughty fun together. The 100 Seiratons surrounded me, speaking in unison.
一
しょ
And that's what you want, right?
だ
Do you, orc? One of the Sadatons to my front charged at me with a smile on her face. She had a huge hammer in her slender arms, and she was swinging it at me. The impact was real. When I blocked it with the D-sword, I could feel it travel through the blade and into my body. She hit hard. My hands felt like they were going numb. I could even feel the pain. But then I understood. This is real. It wasn't a delusion. All of them were real booted. All of them were my enemy.
遊んでくれない
If you don't play with me, I'll smash you flat.
僕の嫁なら
If you're my wife, then let me
道
through.
を開けて。
やだ
No way.
それなら
Then I just have to force my way through. I gripped the sword tight. The flames decorating the handle burned brighter. More red light started coming from the sword.
あ
I swung at her, and my wife. The blade had no weight. It traveled smoothly, right along the path I'd wanted it to travel. And it sliced her in half. There was no sensation of cutting through flesh or bone. It barely took any strength at all. Sarah's sexy body was cut clear in half, diagonally, and fell to the ground in a spurt of blood. Even her organs were realistic. They were a nasty, glistening pink. I looked away.
ごめん
I'm sorry,
Seda.
Seda. I killed my favorite anime character with my own hands. Barantaku. Nothing could be more painful. But still, I had to keep going.
強い強い
You're so strong.
さすがタッ
That's my Taki.
そんなタッキ
I
ーが
love you when you're like this, Taki.
もっと気持ちよくして
Make me feel even better.
遊ぼうよ
Let's play.
めちゃくちゃにしてあ
I'll
げ
tear you apart.
楽しい楽し
This is so much fun. Each of the Sadas were saying something different. Their voices were a flood of sound that threatened to swallow me. I needed to stop thinking of them as Seda. I told myself that they weren't her. I sliced through the Sadas blocking my path so that I could move forward.
どいてよ
Get out of the way. You guys are silly. It's because your insides are pinkish. In case you forgot. That too. Not that too. That is the reason. Get out of the way. A flash of red light moving in an arc. A slicing blade in the darkness. I swung my blade horizontally and killed 4 of the Sadatons in a single motion. Taki! One of them grabbed me from behind. An arm wrapped around my neck in something like a sleeper hold. I could feel a large, soft breast pressed up against my back. Let me go! Another Sadaton tried to grab my leg. I stabbed the D-sword through her face. Her pretty smile melted, leaving a hole behind. It hurt to breathe. I was being strangled. I was going to suffocate.
浮気しちゃダ
I
メ
won't let you cheat on me. The metal club was right in front of my face. I spun around, changing places at the Sadaton strangling me. My back was to them both now. The one holding me relaxed her grip.
リミッチのことなんて
Forget
忘れて
about Mimi. I shook the Sadaton strangling me off, and then spun around again, swinging the D-sword. 3 Sadatons were running toward me. My sword severed their legs. They all fell forward at once, and I stepped over their bodies and kept going.
強い男って
I love strong men! I brought the blade down on the Seda in the back, who was swinging her club around. She blocked it with her metal club. The weapon cut through the club, and her brain too. The D-sword wasn't really cutting anything. It was melting anything it touched. No matter how hard, no matter how soft, no matter how cold, no matter how hot. The sword burned through anything it touched, vaporizing it instantly. Taki! It was a chilling sight. Countless anime characters, all with the same face, all calling my name, all trying to kill me. I let out a bestial scream to give myself strength, and pierced the chest of the Seda to my front. Taki. She grabbed the Z sword. Her hand vaporized almost as soon as she touched it. It's hot. It's so hot. I was stunned. Fear welled up from deep inside my body. A horrid chill ran down my spine. My body was frozen in place. This wasn't Seda. Seda would never try to hurt me. Taki, you dork. Oh, okay. I heard the sound of some ribs breaking. I could hear a nasty sound come from the bones in my right arm too. An impact. Not coming from within my own body. It blew me backwards. I slammed into the wall. I hit my head. Hard. My vision started to go black. Let's lock arms! Her metal club came down at high speed and smashed into me. My left arm turned to meat paste at the elbow. It took a big chunk of the concrete wall with it too. My arm. My arm. Taki, I won't let you get away. Another club came at my legs. I had no strength at all in my right hand. Even moving it a little caused tremendous pain to echo in my brainstem. But I ignored the pain, and slashed out with the D-sword anyway. I ripped through the club easily, and I could feel a scream slip from my lips from the pain. I leapt at the Seda in front of me, and pushed the D-sword into her chest and yanked it out. Seda's blood was all over my hands. Even though she was an anime character, her blood was still warm. My mind was going numb. The only thing I could feel was pain. I wanted to shut it out, but I couldn't, as long as I felt this pain. Thick red blood was pouring from my crushed left hand. Even holding the D-sword with my right hand was painful. My bones ached so badly, I thought I would pass out. I realized I was sweating from my entire body. Drops were getting into my eyes and making them sting. My vision was going blurry. The Sedas were rushing toward me, getting close. Their happy laughter echoed in my ears, shaking my eardrums. Suddenly, a thought came to me. These kinds of injuries might not last more than a few hours. That was fine. It was a delusion. By tomorrow I'd disappear anyway. It didn't matter how badly I was hurt. As long as it could save me. As long as I could destroy NoAH too. If they wanted to take part of my body, I'd gladly give it to them. So, get out of the way. Let's be together! The club came at me once more. I thought about dodging it. The exhaustion and pain slowed me down. It hit me straight in the temple. I could feel the massive spike embedding itself into my skull. The world shook. I blacked out. It was dark before, but now I couldn't see anything. And I rolled, and as I rolled, I checked to make sure the D-sword was still in my aching right hand. And tried to stand up with my crushed left hand. Exposed bones smacked into the bare ground. What felt like an electric shock ran through my body. For a second, I passed out. I woke up immediately. My vision came back. My body was floating. My legs touched the ground. I used the centrifugal force from being knocked back. To charge into the crowd of Setas, I swung my right hand. And the bones creaked. Blood spurted from the Setas. The smell of blood hung in my nose. Was it my blood? The Setas' blood? I couldn't tell anymore. It was all mixed together. I was covered in blood. Even my blurry version had turned red. I kept lashing out with the sword. I didn't know how many I'd killed now, and how long it would take. I felt like the Setas were multiplying infinitely. The Seta clung to my right hand. I flailed the D-sword, dragging her along with it. But she didn't fall off. She yanked my arm in an impossible direction. The bone jerked out from its socket. I couldn't move it anymore. The D-sword was going to fall from my hands. I felt the vomit flying up from my stomach. I gagged on it. The taste of blood spread through my mouth. Maybe one of my broken ribs had damaged my organs. A million kinds of pain were devouring my body. I was going crazy. I wished. I couldn't stop myself from wishing. I wanted to be free from all this. It was impossible, so I didn't expect it to work. Want me to wipe the sweat off you? The smiling Seta was staring into my eyes. I kicked her in the jaw, hard. I forced my rapidly numbing right arm to move as best as it could. Just pop it back into place. It felt like my nerves were being set on fire. My whole body was hot. The pain from my exposed bone had spread not just to my arm, to my whole body, like my body was shattering. I heard what sounded like the scream of a dying cannibal. I wondered whose voice it was, before realizing it was my own. My fingers on my right hand moved, just a little. I picked up the D-sword, a delusion. An image of tying it with the string. In an instant, it became real, and the D-sword was bound to my hand with the string. I had to go, to Rini, past this darkness. Taki, I want you to stay with me. I spat out the blood that was pouring in my mouth. I was surrounded by piles of Seta corpses. More Setas were kicking them over to get at me. A ripple appeared in the pool of blood. I slowly shook my head. Because, Seta, you're... I bit down hard on my teeth. You're the anime character. And right after that, all the Setas instantly turned 2D. The ones who were standing became life-sized pop-ups. The ones who were on the ground became Dakimakura covers. They returned to where they belonged, the two-dimensional world, and they never moved again. Dust has to return to dust. I'll be joining you two before too long. I bowed my head for just a little, as if in silent prayer. While a part of me was thinking that bloodstained Gerdo versions of a Seta Dakimakura were never going to sell. I still felt like I was about to pass out at any moment, so I bit down hard on my lip to stay awake. I started to walk through the dark tunnel once more. Inside an old building near Shibuya Station's east entrance. The rest of the buildings were either partially or completely destroyed, but this one wasn't. On its roof was a planetarium, one which had closed several years earlier. I headed up the empty stairwell, gasping for breath, and went through the deathly quiet lobby into the planetarium itself. I gasped when I saw the huge device inside. The awe-inspiring sight of NoAH 2, a chill that threatened to steal away my body's warmth. Next to it, a bizarre object that felt like some kind of artwork. Rimi. It was shaped something like a cross, and Rimi was bound to it. She slowly looked up when she heard my voice. Our eyes met. Her eyes went wide. Why? Why?
君を
To save you.
助けに
Your eyes went wide. Dummy. Dummy.
かだよ
You're such a fool. She shook her head sadly.
そんな
Look at you.
キスだらけに
You're
な
a
って
mess.
そんな
You didn't
But
have to
just-
do this.
待っててって
I told you
言った
to
の
wait
に
for me. Why? Because I love you. Because I love you, Rimi. But I couldn't say that. Covered in blood, with one arm crushed, I couldn't tell her I'd come to save her because I loved her. I was probably nowhere near being a knight in shining armor. She'd probably think I was creepy anyway. I was basically a stalker, right? Even if I told her how I felt, it would just be a nuisance to her. After this, she's gonna live out the rest of her life. After this, I was going to die. Telling her how I felt would only give her bad memories. So instead, I said something else.
意味に
I wanted to give this back to you.
これを返したくて
I could barely move my right hand, the one with the D-sword strapped to it. I struggled and strained to move my fingers, pulling a handkerchief from my pocket. It was a soft red. I couldn't tell if it was that shade of red to begin with, or if it was stained with my blood. It was the handkerchief Rimi had given to me. It didn't smell like flowers anymore.
僕は
I'm going to get you out of here.
ここから助け出してノア2を
I'm starting
壊
to
し
what
て
to
このハンカ
and
チを
give back this
返
handkerchief.
すんだ
And that was all I could do. And once that was done, I'd have no regrets when I disappeared. And honestly, I didn't think I could do anything more than that. All my senses felt like they were going numb. Maybe the pain was so bad that my brain had shut off the sensation from some of my nerves. I could barely move my body. More and more blood poured from my arm. My eyes were blurry. I felt so cold. Like I might pass out the second I let my guard down. Taku. Rather, I got used to saying Taki because of fucking Seiratan. There were too many of them. She's infected my language. Taku?
君は実に勇
You're a
敢です
very
ね。
brave boy. Shut the fuck up. Go die already. A tall man, Genenchi Norose, stepped out from behind the shadow of Noah-2. He was clapping, but there's no expression on his face.
しかし、
You have a
致
fatal
命
flaw,
的なこと
though.
が一つあります。行動原理が
Your
感情
actions
に
are
根ざ
driven
して
by
いる
emotions.
というこ
That
とで
makes you no
す。
better than a barbarian.
それは野蛮人
Hello?
のすることだ。
You're just jealous that you can't emote. I couldn't really understand what he was saying. Good. It's better that you don't understand. It was all I could do to process the pain. I couldn't deal with any words except Mimi's. Also valid.
タク
Taku,
逃げて
run.
小を犠
The
牲に
minority
し
must be
て
sacrificed
大
to
の利
protect
益
the
を守
interests
る。
of the majority.
それを悪だと
Do
思
you
いま
think
すか？
that's evil? Yes. I'm gonna go with yes. Because things like that said, like things that are said like that, aren't with good intentions.
私はそうは思い
Most
ませ
certainly
ん。
don't. Okay, we know you're crazy in the head. Don't worry about that.
このままでは人類はい
Humanity's
ずれ
current
滅び
path will
去る。
inevitably lead to its destruction.
人の欲望によ
Human
って
greed guarantees
this.
it. I mean, you're not wrong, but you're part of the problem here, buddy.
あまりにも醜い
The human
心。
heart is an ugly, ugly thing. I mean, aren't all organs
あまりに利己的な欲
a
望
flow
の
of
洪水。
selfish desires? Flood.
人の社会はす
Human
でに破
society
綻
is
し
already on the
腐り落
verge
ちよ
of
うとしてい
collapse
ま
and
す
rot. You're just in 2008. You don't even know.
誰もが己のこ
Everyone
としか
thinks
考
only
え
of
ず
themselves.
その結果
Their
殺し合
selfishness
い
drives them
奪
to
い合
kill
ってい
and
く
steal. No, but you know, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and just keep reading.
君もギガロマニアックスと
If
し
you're
て覚
truly
醒した
awakened
の
as
な
a
ら見たはずで
Gigolaniac,
すよ
then you must have seen for yourself
人
what
の
the human
心の
mind truly
本質
is.
を私は幼い
I
頃に
awoke when
覚
I
醒
was
したた
young.
め
I've seen it for
もう何
decades.
十年という間それを見てきた300人
The
委員
committee
会
of
は人類
300
の自
says they're
滅を
working
阻
to
止する
stop
ためとい
mankind
う
from
大義
destroying
名分
itself,
のもと
but the real
世
goal
界
is to
人
turn the
間牧
entire
場計
world's
画を推し
population
進
into
めてきまし
cattle.
た
They call it the Human Cultivation Project.
けれどそれも
And
所
even
詮
that, in the end,
彼
is
ら
an
のエ
attempt
ゴを
to
満たすもの
satiate
でし
their
か
own
ない
egos.
私が目指
My
すのは
goal is
そ
a
んな
far
もので
grander
はありま
one.
せん悟った
I
ので
realized
す
something
よ
very important, you see.
この腐っ
If I
た
was
世界
going
を
to
再
rebuild
生す
this
るため
rotted
には
world, simply
社会
changing
の
the
システ
social
ムを
order
変え
wouldn't
る
be
のではな
sufficient.
く世界中す
I
べて
would
の
need to
人
change
間
the
の
hearts of
心
all
を変える必要
mankind.
があるのだとそのための
Thus,
プ
Project
ロジェクト
NoAH.
ノアですノア2があ
With
れば
NoAH
世界
2,
中す
I
べて
will
の人
eliminate
間
all
から負の
negative
妄想を
delusions
消
from
し
the
去り
human heart.
清廉
I
な
will make
心
it
へと
pure
漂
and
白できま
clean.
す
So a dystopia. Got it. Cause like, if you remove all the shadows, you can't appreciate the light, you know?
争いは消え
War will
世界
disappear,
に永
and I
遠の
will
平
give
和を与える
mankind
ことが
eternal
できます
peace.
君も
In your case,
誰かに
No
蔑
one would
ま
look
れることもなくなるでしょう
no one would look down you anymore. Sure. Sure. No one will look down you anymore. You're right, you're right. Who am I to question you, actually? I would not like someone to look down me. Yeah. I mean, people are taller than you, so there is that inevitability. His long speech finally came to an end. I almost fell, and spent all of my strength trying to keep myself upright. I'd been lucky, giving me a chance to rest for a little.
あんたの
What you're
言っ
saying
てること
might
は
be right.
もしかしたら
Not
正
that
し
I
いか
heard
もしれ
all
な
of what
い
he said, but what he was saying was probably best for humanity's future. It was probably a wonderful thing, I thought. Notice I was the CEO of a huge company. A good, just man. Yeah, you know, CEOs of all huge companies are very good, just men. Totally. Concerned with the well-being of all humanity. Yep, that is definitely CEOs of huge companies' goals in life. And I was a monster. A loser. A creepy otaku. Just here to save a girl for the sake of my selfish ego. Normally, I'd be the bad guy here. The monster would be defeated, and the good and just would win.
でも
But
僕は
I can't lose to you.
あんたには負けられない。
なぜ否定
And
する
why
の
do you
です
refuse it? 'Cause you're ugly
ただの
for the sake of my own
自己満足だ。
self-satisfaction.
残念です
Unfortunate. Notice he kept his eyes on me as he grabbed me by the collar and pulled her down. Sakyu, what? You're acting like I said something wrong. I'm right, and I know I'm right. And you know I'm right. He reached out toward the strange artwork. Okay, he's still a fucker, and is still ugly, but that D-sword is cool. Could I have that, please? That would be awesome. I want it. Gimme. Anyways. And then, in an instant, the thing attached itself to Hirose's hand. There was no artwork, no cross to crucify someone on. Okay, it actually kind of looks like a spaceship in that perspective. It was a D-sword, and far too huge to be called a sword. Cruel, cold, spreader of terror, tainted gospel, pandemonium chaos, tyrannical blasphemy, evil pure and clean, like a gate to hell, stealing away the hearts of all who saw it and trapping them in a cycle of eternal torment. All the world's ills mixed and made manifest. Why does it look so different between this and then that? Maybe the scale is off and that's why? I don't know. I gulped once, in fear. But I made my decision to come here. I held the D-sword up. It was still attached to my hand by the string. And I took a step toward Olutu, which meant getting closer to Narose. The reach of his weapon was far longer than mine.
剣で切り合うような
My fine
野蛮な
duels to the
行為
death with swords were
あまり
bare
得意では
concept.
ないのです
They're not something I say I excel in.
しかし
I do, however,
君からコ
need
ー
your
ドサンプル
code
を手に
sample,
入れる必要
and for
がありま
that,
す
I need to
その
neutralize
ため
you.
に無力化しなければ
Nonose was tall, but the blade was far taller than him. He swung it at me with one hand. It was a heavy strike that threatened to crush anything in its path. My arm was slow to respond, but tensing it up made pain go shooting through it. Just tensing it up made pain go shooting through it, rather. But I forced myself to raise my arm anyway. And I blocked his D-sword. A normal blade would have shattered in pieces from the impact, especially since mine was so thin. It was the opposite of the massive weapon in his hands. But the D-sword didn't break, somehow. I managed to deflect Nonose's first attack. My hand went numb, without a left hand. I couldn't keep my balance. I almost fell backward. It almost knocked me away, but I somehow endured. I blocked his second attack. He was fast, far faster than me. Don't let the way the swords look deceive you, I told myself. A battle of strength, a tiny, delicate sword, and a powerful, vicious one. For now, I was matching him blow for blow, but there was no telling how long that would last. Sorry, that... The fourth strike. The swords collided. He changed the way he was holding the blade. It looked like he was holding the grip of the sword tighter. His D-sword began to vibrate. It also has a vibrate function. Interesting. There was an eerie sound as it transformed. The edge of the blade opened like scissors as it raced toward my chest. Hello, yes, can I help you? I realized too late that this change proved to be a fatal one for me. Resistance. I brought the blade down in front of me. It was too late. The two ends of the blade stabbed into my chest. A cruel smile appeared on Orose's face. He relaxed his grip, and the two pincers drew closer. I tore through my chest, my ribs, my lungs, my body. I forced myself to take a step back. Narase swung his arm to the side. A sword that melts through everything. A sword that's able to contact it that vibrates a bunch. Are we sure the detective was the only one cosplaying a Star Wars character? I mean... No, it wasn't a Star Wars character. It was... whatever it's called in this. I don't remember. I just remember Darth Spider. Unless I swung his arm to the side. I saw fresh blood spread out in front of my eyes. The pain ran through my whole body. I thought my senses had all gone numb, but the pain was so bad I wanted to scream. I clenched my jaw and tried not to pass out. I wonder if I can find what it's called on the tips list. Let's see. Oh, I never read that. AA is short for ASCII art. Pictures made from only the letters and basic symbols included in the ASCII code standard. Used mainly on message boards, etc. Interesting. How did I not read that one? That is the real question. Okay, this is in some kind of order. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I also never read Troll somehow. Originally a method of fishing where a baited hook was placed in the water to catch fish. One-liner refers to deliberately posting false information or provocative opinions in order to elicit a reaction from other users. I think I went too far. Not so. Anyways, fucking eerie. Anyways, not seeing it. I would have thought for sure that was gonna be I would have thought for sure that was gonna be a tip. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'll reread this. I thought my senses had all gone numb, but the pain was so bad I wanted to scream. I clenched my jaw and tried not to pass out. My chest was torn open, sliced into mincemeat. If I hadn't taken that step back, he would have gone in my heart too. Blood spurted everywhere. I almost fell, but I stayed on my feet. I can't die. I can't make it all the way here and then die. I ignored Onose. I headed toward NoAH too, when Rimi was collapsed. Taku. Rimi lifted her head, just a little, to look up at me. She was probably exhausted and weak. She probably couldn't stand. Either from exhaustion or by injuries, my vision was all blurry. I couldn't tell what the expression on her face was. I couldn't look her in the eye. I didn't want her to see me in life. I didn't want her to see me like this, covered in blood, getting my ass kicked. I still had some tiny, miserable sense of pride. I was going to die either way, but it still mattered to me how I looked to her. I kept going toward NoAH too. I was close enough to hit it with my D-sword. Strangely, Nonose wasn't following me. And then, a melody filled the dome. Torianse. NoAH too rose high in front of me. The sound it was making grew higher in pitch. Something strange and unknowable was working within its terrifying mechanisms. I paused for a moment in fear, but then slowly raised the sword to my waist. Then I aimed for the tube-covered, almost organic object in front of me. I swung the sword. Suddenly, I realized NoAH too had disappeared from my vision. For some reason, I had my back to it. I just tried to destroy it. I hadn't turned away from it at all, but I was facing away from it nonetheless. Nonose was in front of me, right where I'd seen NoAH too in my blurry vision a moment ago. I turned around and swung the D-sword again, but even though I thought I turned around, I hadn't. I had the attempt to turn around. I made the motions to turn around, but I hadn't actually turned around. I was confused. NoAH 2 self-defense system, you could call it. His quiet voice echoed through the dome. and mixed with the melody of Torianse.
近づく者の
It
心に干
distorts the
渉
will
し
of anyone
意
who
志を
approaches
歪ま
it.
せる。ノア2には
No one can approach
誰
Noah
も近寄
2
れません。
except me.
私以外
He finished speaking. He walked over to me with steady, elegant steps. He slowly raised the massive D-sword above his head. I gritted my teeth. I lost too much blood. I couldn't think. But still, I raised my almost entirely numb right hand, my right hand which could barely move from the pain, and tried to ready myself for his next attack. The D-sword was only tied to my hand with string. The intense impact knocked it away. I went rolling along the floor, far away from where I was. I watched it fly away from me in shock. And when I turned my gaze toward Onose, I could see him chuckling. The melody had changed. It was an unnerving one now, one that seemed to be warning of something.
君の存在
Allow
を
me to deny you your very existence. He was readying his next attack. He was about to bring it down. His D-sword was far too destructive, far too violent, far too powerful. I was unarmed. I had nothing to block his attack with. I was helpless. No! Yumi ran between the two of us. I could feel her soft body against my face. Don't kill Taku. Yumi's chest. She wrapped herself around me. She was protecting me. Onose sighed softly before lowering the blade. I'm surprised that worked. Yumi had saved me again. Even though I was the one who'd come to save her. I was so pathetic. Frustrated and angry, I slid my right hand between the buttons of her blouse. Hello? Taku. I could feel the warm, slightly rough sensation of the underwear she was wearing. Buddy. The pain of the wound in my chest, the pain in my severed left arm, the pain in my dislocated right shoulder, the pain in my injured lungs, and the fact that I could barely breathe. The warmth made all of them go away. Yumi's underwear, Yumi's bare skin. What are you? I ripped the buttons on the blouse. I tore apart the clothes concealing her body. I exposed her underwear. Taku, stop. Yumi twisted her body to get away from me. I clung to her tighter. I didn't let go. Stop it. Stop it. Taku. This isn't what I want. I gasped and pulled away from her. I couldn't believe what I had just done. None of us can. Even after I let go, she covered her chest with her hands, sobbing sadly. Yeah. She tried to save me. Why had I done that? Great question, Bucko. What was I doing? Especially at a time like this. Why was I making her cry? The truth is, you want to rape Rimi Sakihata. Hello? I heard my own voice in my head. I gasped. Why did I gasp? Because the voice was right? Because it had seen through me? And who was the voice? It was me. It was the voice of my heart. My real feelings. This is your one shot. If you don't take it, Shogun's gonna take her instead. Shogun's already fucking dead at this point. That wrinkly bastard's gonna have sex with her. No, he's not. You don't want that, do you? Could you, like, shut up, inner demon? Of course, it's possible he's screwing her already. What does it matter? That's their business, not yours. My true feelings were whispering to me. Stop it. Don't say those things. I don't think any of that stuff. I wanted to put my hands over my ears, but I couldn't. I didn't even have a left hand anymore. Rumi was crying. She was too much of a mess to even fix her clothes. Looking at her made me feel a crushing pain in my heart. Good? All that stuff about being okay, she didn't love you back. All bullshit. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you... Rape her. Right here. How about no? NoAH will give you that much time. I'm going to die soon anyway. Who gives a shit if she hates me? The little bit of pride you have left? It's like doing what we want. Our past is so pathetic that everybody will feel sympathy for us. Even if we do something bad, nobody will blame us. Shut the fuck up. This is my delusion, a bad habit of mine. I don't think NoAH would stop him, I'll be honest. Like, it's cute that you think he would, but there's no way in hell he would. In fact, NoAH could very much so be behind what's happening right now. This is my delusion, a bad habit of mine. So, I need to make sure I didn't listen. Make sure it didn't influence me. My car was trying to lead me to take the bad way out, the easy way out. But right now, I couldn't listen to it. And anyway, Mimi said she felt bad for me. She meant it. She would let me do it. She literally said she didn't want it. Like, fuck off. Don't die a virgin? No, go fucking die. God. No. I yelped. I yelled to break the weakness in my heart, to blow it away. Good Taku. Fortunately, the voice disappeared. Mimi wasn't crying anymore. She'd been covering her face with her hands, but now she lowered them. She gave me a cold glance of disgust. As she should. Loser. That one word was enough to fill my head with black emotions. I went to throw myself at her when... Okay. A huge stake burst through the concrete floor. Its pointed tip stabbed right into my crotch. Well, you reap what you sow, I guess. I couldn't understand what was going on. My legs left the floor. I couldn't escape. The stake worked its way deeper and deeper into my body. The pain was unbelievable, but not enough to kill me. The stake kept growing taller, until it lifted me a full meter off the ground. The slightest movement caused intense pain in my crotch. I couldn't move an inch. Not that we expected him to live, but there's no way in hell's gonna be able to have kids after this one. Spark Wars, thank you. I wanted somebody to save me. I looked down at Rimi with pleading eyes. But she ignored me and walked over to NoAH, and then she crouched down, like she was exhausted. Both Mimi and NoAH were watching me and my ugliness. They were just watching me expressionlessly. Neither tried to help. I mean... Did you know? Impalement with the stake was once a popular form of torture all around the world. What makes it unique is that it takes 3 full days to die. Interesting. The body's weight presses down, allowing the stake to work its way inside. The trick is to not make the end too sharp, you see. This ensures the organs remain undamaged, and prolongs the time before death. And when the stake bursts from the mouth or the shoulder, The execution is complete.
見守っていて
I'll
あ
be
げます
watching
よ
you until that happens.
3日
For the next 3 days. Well, someone's bored
あなたが死ぬま
until
で
you die.
彼女も
She
同
seems
じ
to
考え
feel
の
the
よ
same
うで
way.
すし
I mean, after... Rumi slowly nodded.
もっともその前に
It's possible that
胸
blood
や
loss
腕の
from your
傷のせ
chest
い
or
で
arm injuries will
失
kill you
血死に
before
至る
that.
方が早いかもしれませんが
This is a delusion. Who's attacking me with a delusion? I kept telling myself that. The real me wasn't being impaled. I was simply standing in front of NoAH too. I was hallucinating. That's what I believed. That's what I had to believe. 3 days. 72 hours. 4,320 minutes. 259,200 seconds. If I can endure that, the delusion would end. It would have to end. It would be so much easier if I could fall asleep or pass out, but unfortunately, I couldn't. The pain wouldn't let me. That's what made this such an effective method of torture. If this kept up, I was going to go crazy. Crazy? I was crazy. Just a moment ago. I've been planning to find some way to endure it, but now I felt nothing but despair. The thought of the long hours that waited for me until my death drove away any emotions except despair. I wish he just killed me. How much time had passed? There were no clocks around me, I couldn't tell. I wanted to see a clock, but if I did, the slowness of the seconds passing would break me. I grit my teeth. A waterfall of sweat was pouring off my body. My throat felt parched. I quenched it with the blood that would sometimes work its way up from my stomach. And inside my body, I could feel the stake working its way gradually up, digging deeper inside me. I could feel it inside me. It was a countdown to death. At some point, it would work its way up, through what remained of my chest, come through my windpipe, and out my mouth. Correction, this game, they're in the same series. The pain and fear were making me crazy. Crazy? I was... Every 5 minutes, I would pass out from the pain and wake up again. What I learned from that would be... Blah 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 blah. Blah. What I learned from that was that when I passed out, my body would relax and the stake would go faster. Interesting. I guess that makes sense. Of course, the pain would get vastly worse, and then the pain would wake me up. I would writhe from the pain, unable to move, and then to escape from it, I'd pass out. This horrible cycle repeated again and again. Even when I was awake, my vision was blurring. For some reason, the pain felt a little better. Crazy? I was crazy once. They impaled me. They impaled me with the stake. The stake made me crazy. Crazy? My vision was dim. I thought that maybe it was night, but there was no windows in the dome. That couldn't be it. It's probably from lack of blood, I thought. There were very small amounts of blood trickling from my chest and my left arm. If only more would come out, I could die an easy death from blood loss before the stake killed me. I had the idea of trying to move my crushed left arm, the one that no longer existed below the elbow. But it wouldn't move. The nerves were probably already dead. B0. Bia. Was this really a delusion? When would it end? Would it really end? What proof did I have to begin with when I thought it was a delusion? How could I tell it was a delusion? What if it was real? I could endure it all I wanted and I'd still just die. There's no point in trying to endure it all. So why was I doing it anyway? I was a moron. An idiot. A total idiot. Die. I meant that too. It wasn't just something I was saying. I should just die now. I'm sick of the pain. Sick of the suffering. I should just bite my tongue clean off. Then it would all be over. Just let me go. This is a delusion, right? I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Gonna die. Gonna die. Gonna die. Hurts. Gonna die. Gonna die. Oops. Gonna die. Gonna die. Gonna die. Hurts. Gonna die. Gonna die. Normal things. Normal things. More blood came from my chest. I ceased to be able to breathe. No matter how much I tried to suck in oxygen, all I did was make a strange, ridiculous whistling sound with my throat. I could see the stake poking up through the wound in my chest. I spat out blood. I opened my mouth again and again in search of oxygen. I felt relieved. I could die soon.
そろそろです
I
ね
think it's about time. I heard NoAH's voice. I could sense him right in front of me. But he was nowhere to be seen. My eyes couldn't see anything now. I've been suffering, impaled on the stake for so long, that I had totally forgotten about him and Remy. And is Remy still nearby? It didn't even matter, though. I was busy trying to breathe. For a while now, I've been using all of my strength and nerves to do that.
君が無事死ぬ
Before I
前
let you enjoy your death,
彼女を始末し
I'll
てお
get
き
rid
ま
of
しょう
her. I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't have time to think.
私を
And you're going
殺すの
to kill me?
へえ
Yes,
そういうこ
that's
とです
correct.
遺言
Go
を
ahead.
どうぞ
Say your last words.
ごめんタク
Sorry, Taku.
タクの
I
こと
couldn't save you.
助けてあげられなかった
I could hear her dying screams. I heard the sound of somebody falling. She'd been shot and killed, I thought. I felt no emotion. I was too busy. I went back to my job, trying to breathe. And then, I was stunned at myself. What was the point of this? Why was I trying so hard to breathe? This wasn't fair. I felt something hot run down my cheeks. Maybe I was crying, but I had no way to know. I'd hung in there for 3 days, and I was almost to the end, and I'd lost her. I'm sorry, Mimi. I'm the one who should apologize. I couldn't protect you. There was no sense in living anymore. I released all the tension in my body. I could feel myself sinking faster. Something was in my throat. I couldn't breathe at all. I was rising up. Mm-hmm. I came back to my senses. The sense of having something inside my body disappeared. I wasn't impaled. The only blood was on my chest and left arm. How much of that had been a delusion? My brain's processing speed couldn't keep up. I couldn't understand what was going on. Unless it was in front of me, his D-sword held high.
帰ってきました
So you're back.
あなたが体験
The
した
3
3日
days you
間は
experienced were only a
現
second
実
of
で
the
は
real
1秒しか
world.
経っていませんが
Oof.
やっぱり
So, it was a
そう
delusion. I whispered, relieved. Notice's D-sword came down like a hurricane. My top half fell away from my bottom half. My vision tilted. From the waist down, I was still standing. From the waist up, I was falling. My body had been sliced in two. The cut was unbelievably clean.
あ
I stared at my lower half, confused. I didn't want to admit this could be real. Was this a delusion? I hoped it was a delusion. Please be a delusion. Taku. 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 Yumi was calling my name. She sounded so sad.
その状態でも
Even in that
死
state,
ぬまで
it'll
数
take a
分
few
は持
minutes
つ
for
はず
you
で
to
す。
die.
元医師である
I used
私
to
が
be
言
a
うのだ
doctor,
か
you
ら
know.
確
You
か
can
です
trust
ね。
me on this. I don't trust you on anything.
その間に
I suppose I should
コ
get
ー
your
ドサン
code
プル
sample
を
while
取る
you're
こと
still
にしましょう
alive. I crawled, moved my body forward using just my right hand, towards Nimi's voice. I wanted to touch her. I had to save her. Nimi. Right hand. Forward. 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 I stretched it out. But I didn't know where Nimi was. I couldn't reach her. I couldn't reach anyone.
しぶとい
You're a
男
tough man. Crunch. The sound of cracking bones. Notice his leather shoe had come down hard on my extended right hand.
さすが化け
You're
物
not a man, though,
と
are
言
you?
うべきです
You're
か
a monster. And you are...
そのノロセの
Notice
足
his
が
legs started to shimmer
蜃
in
気
the
楼の
air,
ように揺れた。
like a mirage.
床のタイルの模
The
様
pattern
が
on
ぼ
the
んや
floor
りとし
tiles
始め
started
て、
to blur.
天地が回転す
Heaven
る。
and earth spun.
床と天井
Floor
が
and
逆にな
ceiling
る。
were reversed.
僕は
I was
天井に
clinging
這い
to
つく
the
ばっている。
ceiling.
両断された腰から
Blood was pouring
も
from
の
my
すごい
severed
勢いで血
torso,
が噴き出す。全開にした
like
蛇
the
口の
faucet
ように
opened all the way.
血が
The blood
体か
was
ら抜
draining
けてい
from my
く。
body.
そのまま
Even my organs
腕の傷
started
口
to
を通
pour
っ
out
て
from the wound.
内臓までが
in
流
my
れ
arm.
出る。意識がスー
I
ッ
started
と
to
遠く
black
なる。
out,
でも
but I couldn't
完
black out
全
all
に
the
は
way.
途切れない。血だまりが
A
でき
puddle
て
of blood formed.
僕はそのシンクの海に身を横たえている。ドクン
Kathud,
ドクンと
kathud,
鼓動する心臓
beating
が
heart.
僕の目の前に
Right
転
in
が
front
っ
of
て
me.
いて、血だまりに波
Ripples
紋を
formed in
作
the
り、
pool of blood.
その波紋を
I
ぼ
stared
んや
at
り
it
見
in a
ていたら、
daze.
僕の
And
形
I
が
lost my shape.
崩れた。人としての
I ceased to
形
be
を
able
維
to
持でき
maintain
な
my
い。
human shape.
僕と世界
The
との
boundary
境
between
界
me
が
and
消
the rest
失
of the
す
world
る。
disappeared.
肉が溶け、
Flesh melted.
骨がゴムの
And
よう
bone
に曲
bent
が
like
り、
rubber.
眼球は四角に
Eyeballs
なり、
became square. Eyeballs became square? Sure.
口から
My lungs
裏返っ
turned
た肺
inside
が
out,
こぼれ出し、
spilled out from my mouth.
神経は
And
数
the
万
nerves
キ
were
ロメー
stretched
トル
out
も
a
引っ張
million
られ、
kilometers.
脳は
Every
シワの
wrinkle
一
in my
つ
brain
一つ
was
を丁
carefully
寧に伸
flattened
ばさ
out.
れ、体はブ
My
ヨブヨ
body
になる。
turned to jelly.
空気に溶け
I
てい
was
く。
melting in the air.
右手が糸のよ
My
うに
right
伸
arm
びて、
stretched out like a thread
プラネタリウムを
out of
出
the
ていく。
planetarium.
それは飴細
I
工の
wandered
よう
the
に
skies of Shibuya
渋谷の空をさ
like
まよっ
cotton
て、
candy.
コーネリアスタ
It
ワ
wrapped
ーに
itself around and
Kuru
around
kuru.
Cornelius Tower,
巻きつく。
wrapped
何度も
around and around and around
何度も
and around and around
何度も
and around and around.
別れた足
My
が
legs started to
膨れ
plump
てる。
up,
ブクブクと
plump, plump,
水風船み
like
たい。
water balloons.
パンパンに
Balloon, balloon.
皮
My
膚が
skin
伸びて
stretched.
ギチギチ
It made a
音を立ててる。
stretch sound.
液状か
Was I liquid?
肉も
My meat and my
骨も
bones.
とろけて
They melted into a
ふくら
puddle
は
at
ぎ
my
に溜まって
calves.
る。腰から
A tiny head
ニ
went
ョキっ
pop
て
must
小さ
appeared
な
out of my
頭が
waist.
生えてぎょろりとした
Its
白い
big
目
white
が
eyes looked around and
僕を見
around,
たよ。
and then at me.
そしたら
And then
僕の頭
my
が
head
ぐしゃ
went
って
splurt.
潰された。どっちの頭かは
I don't
よ
know
く
which
わ
head
かん
though.
ない。潰れて
It was
トロ
crushed,
トロになっ
and it
て
got all messy.
ビルの
It
床
sank through the floor of the
コン
building
クリ
through
ート
the
の分
gaps
子
in
の
the
隙間
concrete's
を抜けて
molecules,
落ちていく。
and it fell
地上へ
all the way to the ground.
ビューっ
Drip,
て
drip, drip.
地面に
And then it
作
hit
る
that ground.
どろりとした
It made a puddle of
脳
ooey
みその
gooey
水たま
brains.
りもぞもぞ
Rustle, rustle, chew,
もごも
slurp,
ごじゅ
slurp,
るじゅるドロ
gooey,
ドロ
gooey. Shake,
プルプル
shake,
ビヨ
bounce,
ンビヨン
bounce. Drip,
ビチャビチャ
splurt,
ぐじゅぐ
splurt,
じゅ
crunch,
ぐちゃり
crunch.
ぐちゃり
Wow, we have learned so many onomatopoeias right now. Byung byung. Anyways,
僕は二つ
No.
になる
there's two of me.
二つが四
No,
つにな
two
る
becomes four.
四つが
Now
八
four
つにな
becomes
る
eight.
八つが四
Eight
つに
becomes four.
二つが八つ
Two
に
becomes eight.
四つが
Four
四つ
becomes
に
four.
どんどん
More
増え
and more
て
appear.
どんどん
More and
減
more
る
disappear.
僕がいっ
Lots of
ぱ
me.
い僕が
None of
いない
me.
僕は
What am
何
I?
僕っ
Just
て
what am I?
何って
Am I
僕
what?
僕
I
何
what?
何くが
What?
ナボに
What might I? Uh-huh.
ナボ
What
ボに
the
なく
mat
ぼ
I
な
what?
君は妄想なんかじゃ
You're
ない
not a delusion.
れ
I
だ
見てごらん
look.
西条七海が
Nanami Nishijo
祈る
is praying.
兄と共に収
She
容
and her
された
brother were
病
sent
院
here. They're in the
怪
corner
我
of
人
a
が
waiting
溢れた
room overflowing
待合
with
室の
injured
片隅
people.
にうずくまり実の兄の
She's
し
holding
わ
her
くちゃ
real
の手を
brother's
握りしめ
wrinkly
て
hand,
右手の痛みに
enduring
耐
the
え
pain
て
in her own right hand.
目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying,
もう一人の
praying for the
兄の
safety
無
of
事
her
を
other brother.
楠木岩
Yua
が祈
Kusunoki
る
is praying.
倒壊したビル
In
の
the
瓦
rubble
礫
of a collapsed building,
そ
inside a
こに
large
埋もれ
shipping
るよう
crate,
に横たわる
half
コン
buried
テナ
and
の
lying
中
on
で
its side.
彼の美少女
She's
フィ
holding
ギュア
one
の
of
一
his
つを
anime
握り
figurines
し
in
め
her
て
hands.
地震と火事
The
で
damage from the fires and the
醜く変
earthquakes
形し
have
てしまっ
warped
た
his figures
フ
almost
ィギュア
beyond
たちの姿
recognition.
に感じ
It
た
hurt her to see it,
胸の
but she
痛みに耐
endures.
え目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying
彼女を許
for
し
the
てくれ
safety of the boy
た少
who
年の
forgave
無事
her.
を岸本綾
Ayase
瀬が
Kishimoto
祈る
is praying.
避難所となってい
Natsume
る水
Academy
明学園
Now, a shelter for the survivors.
その校
She's
舎
on the
の
roof
屋
of the
上で
school,
空
looking
を
up
見
at
上
the
げて
sky.
神話が書
In
か
her
れた
hands,
文庫
she
本を
holds a
握りし
paperback
め
book
て
filled with myths and legends.
崩壊した
An
渋谷
uncountable
を
number
覆
of
う
delusions cover
不
what
特定
remains
多
of
数の
Shibuya,
妄想が
and
見
the
せ
evil
る
within the
悪意の
pains
痛みに
her,
耐え
but she endures.
目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying
彼女の歌を
for the safety of the boy to
彼女の
listen to her and
話を
her songs.
聞いてくれた少年の無事を折原梢
Kozue
が
Orihara
祈る
is praying
新線駅の
in the dim light of the
薄暗い
platform
ホー
at
ム
Shinsen Station.
青い瀬名の
She's holding
震える
Aoi-sena's
手を握り
trembling
しめて
hands,
足の傷の
enduring
痛
the
み
pain
に
in
耐
her
えて
injured leg.
目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying
心の声で語
for
り
the
合っ
safety
た
of her
ク
classmate.
ラスメ
She
ートの
spoke
少
to
年
in
の
her
無事
heart.
を青い瀬名が
Aoi-sena is
祈る
praying.
横たわる
She's
父
sitting
の
next to her
傍らに
father as
座
he
り
lies on the ground,
父の冷たく
clutching
なった
his
手を
cold,
握り
stiff
しめて
hands,
最後まで
suffering from the pain that came from never being honest about what it was she truly wanted, even at the very end.
目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying
彼女のお
for
願
the
い
safety
に
of the boy who
不
tried to
器用
grant
な
her
がら
wish.
答えようとしてくれた少年の無事を咲畑凛
Inumi
が
Sakihata is
祈る
praying,
冷たい床に
lying
横
on the
たわりな
cold
がら
floor,
彼へ伸ばした
clenching the
自らの
hand she'd
手を
stretched out toward
きつく
him
握りしめ
tightly,
て傷だらけの彼
enduring
の
the
姿
pain
を
she
見て感
feels in
じ
her
た
heart when she looks at his terrible
締
wounds.
め付けられるような胸の痛みに耐えて目を閉じて
She's closing her eyes
祈る
and praying
自分が守
for
ろう
the
とした
safety of the boy she tried
自
to
分
protect.
を助けに来て
the
くれ
boy
た
who
少
came to
年
save
の
her.
無事を
僕は何もできな
I
かっ
was
た。
helpless to do anything.
君が行
You're the
動し
one
た
who。took action,
その結果として
and because of that,
みんなが君
everyone
のことを
saw you.
見てきた。君という周囲
A
共
shared
通認識
awareness
は
of your existence
とっくに
was
出来上
already
がっているん
created
だ
a long time ago.
これからは
From now on, no.
Yeah.
Even in this very
もうすでに
instant,
君こそが
you're the real
僕
me.
僕は
Who am I?
君は
Who are you?
誰
Who?
僕は
I am. Yep.
その声が聞こえ
The
た瞬
second I
間
heard
に
that voice, heard that voice.
意識が
My mind
僕を
fixed
固
me
定
in
した
place.
ぐちゃぐちゃにか
And
き
the
回
messed
さ
up,
れていた
mixed
世
up
界が
world came
一
together
気
in
に
an
収
instant.
束する混沌は
The chaos
僕の理想
converged
像を
in the
形
form
作
of
って
my
収
D
束
sword.
僕は
I
僕としての
regained
形
my
に
shape.
戻る世界は
The
世界
world
としての
regained its
形に戻る僕は
I am
僕だ
me. My vision became clear again. My wounds were healed. My top and bottom were connected once more. And I was standing on my own 2 feet. The pain was completely gone. My heart was completely at peace.
妄想によく打ち勝ったね。
You defeated the delusion.
僕の最後の力
I'll
を
entrust you with the last of my power.
君に託すよ。
I could see it in me, the corner of my vision. She was there. She was looking at me. She was crying. Don't cry. I gripped the D-sword's handle. I held it tight. I felt its sensation in my hands. My arms were moving. They were completely restored.
これは
This is
実
a
に
truly
興味深い
interesting phenomenon.
こ
You
バケモン
monster. I looked straight at Rosa.
確かに
Yeah.
僕
I
は
may
化
be
け
a
物
monster, but this is
でもこれが
saved me. Destroy Noah too.
僕が望んだ妄
The
想だ
delusion I desired. NoAH's response was fast. He still didn't have Tokumi Nishijo's code sample. He thought he pushed the boy to the brink with the delusion attack, but now, the tables had almost completely turned. He couldn't let that happen. NoAH charged. He brought his D-sword up from below. He sliced it across Takumi's chest. The D-sword could cut through anything. It didn't matter what it was. Cutting through a human was no more difficult than cutting through jelly. NoAH's lightning-fast attack had sliced Takumi in two. But there was no blood. Takumi's lower half almost fell, but it didn't. He was still standing. And in the next moment, it regenerated. Uninjured, as if it never happened. And then he regenerated. The body that had been sliced apart just a second ago had already grown a new head, a new right arm, and a new right shoulder.
痛覚は遮断した
I shut off my sense of pain. Takumi took a step toward Nanase. Nanase grimaced. He flipped the D-sword over.
肉体の形を捨てたがいい
So, since you abandoned the shape of your body,
いかなる形をも
you can take any shape
と
you
いう
want.
ことですか。
あんたの見せてくれ
It's
た
thanks to the delusion you
妄想
showed
のおかげ
me.
だよ
He hadn't been able to maintain his shape as a human, but he had taken the delusion and made it his own. He wasn't regenerating, he was replenishing. The lost parts remained from the infinitely multiplying dust inside him, formed into flesh and bones. His shape wasn't fixed. Like an amoeba, like a slime, he could change it to be whatever he wanted. That was the reason Takumi had called himself a monster. His legs took another step toward NoAH. NoAH's frustration increased. He held the grip of his D-sword and stabbed it out towards the approaching Takumi. The huge scissors stretched out towards either side of the boy's head.
脳を失え
You
ば
can't have delusions
妄想は
without a
できない
brain, can you? He crushed it, as one would smash a watermelon. Blood spurted everywhere. But Takumi's body kept going forward. The regeneration, replenishing, only took an instant. When his foot touched the ground, as if nothing had ever happened. As if it had been replaced with a new one. His head was there, and undamaged. NoAH understood. He couldn't win. No physical attacks with his D-sword would be effective. His enemy had taken his delusion attack, his attempt to deny their existence, and turned it to their advantage. In this moment, Takumi Nishijo was so far beyond human, so twisted in existence, so perfect a monster. But NoAH couldn't give up. He thought of using Noah's 2 power to blast Takumi with countless antiparticles. Nothing could withstand collision with antiparticles without turning it to negative matter and collapsing it on itself. If destruction from outside was impossible, then he would have to destroy his foe from the inside.
そうなんだね
Good idea. Takumi had NoAH's thoughts. What? The light of Takumi's D-sword changed from red to black. Black flames shrouded the blade. It roared, it stretched out. It was as if it was a huge black snake.
ささ
And then
現れるの
it will appear. And wandered the room, too big for the dome. It scraped against the roof, and scraped up against the floor, as if it was eating away at them both, devouring them.
写真の黒
The
き大地
great black serpent of wicked
あらゆる
hearts,
崩壊を飲み込む
that which is the same and yet different, which swallows all destruction, and gets out of the body of the king of wicked hearts. The snake's body was composed of antiparticles. Particles on which it would cause anything that they touched to collapse in on itself. It was an all-devouring torrent of destruction.
触手芸はあんまり
Tentacle
好みじゃ
games
ない
aren't
けど
really my thing, but I'll make an exception for you. Oh dear. Games where girls suffer a variety of terrible fates at the hands, of tentacled monsters. Do not play if you're under 18. Takumi swung the D-sword where he stood. He pointed the tip at Narose. The circling snake snapped its body like a whip, and its jaw bit down on Narose.
まさか
You can't possibly be this powerful. Narose had never seen a D-sword do something like this. He couldn't tell if this was Takumi's delusion, or some hidden gigalomaniac power. The black fangs were eating away at his body. He was falling apart. But it was so slow. Like a frog slowly being devoured in the belly of a snake. The darkness was slowly swallowing him up. He felt no pain. Death should have been instant. But Takumi didn't want that. Narose realized this, and laughed bitterly. He wasn't afraid of death. His ideal, the completion of NoAH 2, was at hand.
私を殺
You
しても
can kill me,
ノ
but
ア
no one
2
can
には誰も
approach
近づ
NoAH
け
2.
ない永久期間
It's a
だ
perpetual
それは
motion machine. An engine which can operate forever without any kind of external energy input. Well, I am willing to bet it won't work if it's broken.
人類を未来
Will
永劫に
rule
わた
over
って
mankind
管理し
for all
続ける
eternity.
ただ座して
He
眺め
won't
てい
just
るだ
sit
けで
there
はない
silently.
人の
His
幸福のた
artificial
めに干
god,
渉して
which will
くる
guide mankind to
人工の民
happiness.
なのです
In a way, Narose was the creator of a god. As long as NoAH 2 existed, humanity would not go extinct. Narose's utopia would be realized. But
あんたなら
you
近づけるんでしょ
can get close to it, right? What? The snake holding Narose began to move. It raised his body up high.
それならあんた
That
は火
means
事だ
you're the key. Narose's expression was one of pure shock, but it quickly changed into one of pain. The snake flung his body around in a circle like it weighed nothing. Takumi gave a quick glance at Rimi, their eyes met. What was she thinking right now? It would be easy to read her mind, but Takumi didn't. Looks like I was able to save you. He quickly looked away. His gaze was now fixed on NoAH 2, still emitting its roar, the seat of God, which none could approach, a cradle that showed happy dreams.
ごめん
I'm sorry. This were to no one in particular.
僕は
He might be humanity's enemy, I guess. This machine would create an eternal paradise. A future without conflict. Now Takumi is about to ruin that future. Whether that was wrong or right, Takumi didn't know.
でも神話でも
But you
よ
see
く
it
あ
all
るで
the
しょ
time in myths, right?
神だって
God screwing things
女
up
絡
for
み
the
でう
sake
だ
of
うだや
a
ってる
girl.
だから僕
So,
も
I think I'll do the same. Sacrificing humanity's happiness for the sake of a girl he loved. Takumi drew the hand which held his D-sword back behind his body.
突き破れ
Break through! And then thrust it forward like a spear. The black snake charged forward in a straight line. Its prey, Nanose, was impaled on its fangs as it raced through as it raced towards NoAH 2. A spear of pure antiparticles. It had no will of its own, thus there was nothing for NoAH 2 to disrupt. The all-encompassing torrent of destruction used Nanose as its key and easily broke through the delusion barrier. Ew. It got vaporized. At some point, it must have started to rain. There was a violent explosion, the shockwave. Picked me up like a rag doll and sent me flying. That's understandable. Next thing I knew, I was here. Those eyes were always watching me. Their gaze passed through the thick black rain clouds and came down on me like rain. Don't look at me. More than the rain's chill, the cold of the rubble beneath my back made my body shiver endlessly. It's so cold. And the gaze that bored into me from above the sky. Whose eyes are those? I lifted my head a little and looked around, seeking a way to the. Huh? No. I saw the shattered remains of a city. I saw despair. I saw death. I saw nothingness. Nobody was there. Nobody was moving. Nobody was alive. Was the rain going to keep falling? Until it washed away everything. The living and the dead. Until it gently submerged everything and swept it away. A part of me hoped this was all just a simple delusion, but I guess I wasn't so lucky. My body refused to move. The only things I could move were my head and eyes, and just barely at that. I couldn't use the monster's power I just used a moment ago. My body was shaking, but that was an involuntary reflex. It wasn't my will. I didn't want my body to shake. If my body wouldn't listen to me, then it wasn't really my body at all. Maybe it never listened to me in the first place. Nobody knows where the soul is really kept after all. So who could be sure that my soul was really inside this body? But if that was really the case, then where was I? Was I here? Was I nowhere? In this broken world where nothing moved, I suddenly heard a sound that wasn't in. A single someone came out from the nothingness. Who are you? Do you look so pale because you're cold? Or because you're dead? But she wasn't shivering. But she, and her eyes, which were hidden almost completely beneath her bangs. Don't look at me. They looked so sad, but they also seemed filled with madness. They seemed like they weren't seeing anything at all, if maybe. The only things in the world were her and me, and we kept looking at one another like this forever. Would my world be only what reflected in her eyes? And would her world be only what reflected in my eyes? In her eyes I was reflected, in my eyes she was reflected. When I thought about it that way, the world suddenly seemed so much smaller. Hey. Suddenly, I heard static that sounded so pretty. Her head fell forward, and she spread out her hands, as if she were about to take flight toward those rain clouds, or as if she were trying to take all the rain into her hands.
あなたを見つ
The
め
delusion
妄想
that stares at you. With her head bent forward, I couldn't see the look on her face, but what do you look like from the veil of rain between us? I'll give you your rest now. An angel? Are those wings of light a blessing upon me, or... Oh, now I see. I understand. You're gonna use that to kill me, aren't you? Slowly, she dropped to her knees in front of me. She was still bent forward. She embraced my head gently. I felt relieved that she wasn't looking at me and let her into her arms.
殺さなくちゃ
I have to kill you,
いけないの
she whispered into my ear. The pretty static.
ごめん
I'm sorry. I'm so
ごめん
sorry.
ね
And now do I click to continue? Yep. There's no need to apologize. If I don't disappear, the other me, the real me, will die. So, this is for the best. If you're the one to erase me, that's all I need. It's a happy ending for a monster. I have no regrets. I felt something warm, soft, gentle, and sweet. It was like a drug. The faint sensation of her breathing tickled my cheeks. I smelled something so very sweet. Suddenly, I felt a pressure on my chest. The huge sword in her hands tore through the skin of my chest, ripped through the meat behind it, and slid through the bone. But her kiss was like a drug, and I felt no pain. Suddenly I felt sad, like my tears were going to start overflowing. And to myself, and looked over her shoulder at the dull gray-greeny sky. I had a very strong feeling that it was going to end the same way it started. And I'm honestly glad it did. There's so many questions that will hopefully be answered with all the other routes. I am really curious. I'm really curious how everything will build up to that final ending, too. I do have a slight theory, though, since we have to go through all the character endings in order to unlock that final ending, too. You have to do every ending except for that one in order to be able to do that one. I'm pondering if, like, the reason for that is just so that way you have everyone come with Taku to destroy NoAH too, so he's not by himself. That's what I'm thinking might be the case. So like each individual character ending, he has them come with him. That's my guess. I could be horribly wrong. I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? You like my theory? Yeah. You like it too? No. But what do you guys think? I mean, in general, what thoughts do you have about the game? Instead of complimenting my genius ideas. Chaos. Thumbs up. So true, so true. You're so right. Chaos. It took fucking forever to build up to something that made a lick of sense, but that was so fucking good. I honestly don't mind that it took that long, though, because, like, they have to set out all the pieces, because if they don't, there's nothing to connect, you know? But yeah, it is really good. I am really looking forward to all the other endings. I'm not necessarily looking forward to the quote-unquote good delusions, but it is satisfying getting to this point. Yes, I'm eager for what we'll have next. I also kind of wonder how long it'll take to do each of the endings. Like, I'm wondering if they might be able to be, like, one stream, or if it's gonna be more than one stream. I'm not sure. Because I don't know how much new content gets added per route. Yay, Silent Sky End. We have the CG library now, let's go. And the sound library. And the movie library. Wow. And next time we gotta click start again. Isn't that fun? Head pats will say less. Anyways. Blah, blah, blah. Blah. This one. Yeah, that's fine. Anyways, yeah, that was the game. Oh, the cage is still there. Oops. Big. Yes, nice and big. Extra squishy. I don't know. That was satisfying. Yeah. I am eager for more. I've already said that, though. Yeah, okay, I'm going to raid Catman because it'll probably make him self-aware of how late it is, because he might not be aware, because he's playing Dead Cells, so you know how that goes. Yeah, Catman is still up, playing Dead Cells. Is anyone surprised? Definitely not me. But yeah, this game doesn't hold back, which is why it had to be censored for Steam. Like, you know, I love horror stuff, but it's been a while since a game has made me this uncomfortable. And it's the censored version, isn't that fun? But yeah, I'll be raiding Catman. I do appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you to those who have raided me. I got a couple of raids. That's not as, blah blah blah. Censored by Steam is kinda nuts given the shit they let on there. Yeah, like that just tells you how much more it is. I'm gonna sneeze the ad break. But, yeah, that's the first ending. Now we get many more endings and maybe be more confused or less confused. Stay tuned. But until next time, I will catch you all later. Tomorrow is Date Alive. We're also getting True Ending. True Ending and Date Alive tomorrow before we move on to the main name game of the 3-pack, which will be interesting. But yeah. Did I say tomorrow? That's today. It's a full hour into today. Anyways. Good night. Bye-bye.